Hey friends, imagine walking along roads that connected civilizations across deserts and mountains. Close your eyes and let the journey begin. Far out in the western Pacific Ocean, where the horizon dissolves into endless blue and the waves whisper stories older than memory, lies one of the most enigmatic archaeological sites on Earth, Nan Madol. Hidden among mangroves and coral reefs on the eastern shore of the island of Pohnpei, Nan Madol is not merely a ruin, it is a question carved in stone, a silent challenge to modern understanding, and a reminder that human ingenuity has always been deeper than we assume. Nan Madol is often called the Venice of the Pacific, but this comparison barely scratches the surface of its mystery. Unlike Venice, which grew gradually through trade and expansion, Nan Madol appears to have emerged as a deliberate, planned ceremonial city built not on land, but on water. The city consists of nearly 100 artificial islets, each constructed from massive basalt stones and separated by narrow canals. Together, these islets form a complex urban network unlike anything else in Oceania. What makes Nan Madol truly extraordinary is not just its location, but its age, scale, and method of construction. Built between approximately 1200 and 1600 CE, long before modern tools, cranes, or metal engineering, the city was constructed using basalt columns weighing several tons each. These stones were stacked in a crisscross pattern, resembling log cabins made of rock. Even today, with advanced machinery, moving such stones across water would be a formidable task. Yet the people who built Nan Madol had no written language, no wheels, and no metal tools. So how did they do it? This question lies at the heart of Nan Madol's enduring fascination. A city without a foundation. Most ancient cities were built on solid ground, riverbanks, plains, or hills. Nan Madol defies this logic. The builders chose a shallow lagoon surrounded by coral reefs as the site of their capital. To create the city, they first constructed artificial foundations by filling coral rubble into shallow areas of the reef. On top of these foundations, they stacked massive basalt stones, forming walls that rose directly from the sea. Each islet had a specific function. Some were residential, others administrative, and many were sacred. The canals between them acted as water streets, navigated by canoe. From above, Nan Madol looks less like a city and more like a stone labyrinth floating on the ocean. The most important structure in the city was Nan Duas, the royal mortuary complex. Its walls, some reaching over 7 meters high and several meters thick, were built with astonishing precision. Inside, the remains of Saudalur rulers were laid to rest, surrounded by ritual spaces that reinforced their divine authority. But Nan Madol was not a city for common people. It was a city of power. The Saudalur dynasty, rulers of stone and sea. Nan Madol served as the ceremonial and political center of the Saudalur dynasty, the first known centralized ruling system on Pohnpei. Before the Saudalurs, Pohnpei society was organized into small, independent clans. Power was local, and leadership was shared among chiefs. The Saudalurs changed everything. According to oral tradition, the Saudalur rulers arrived from a distant land, some legends say from the west, others from the sky. They established a rigid, hierarchical system that placed themselves at the top as semi-divine kings. Nan Madol became the physical symbol of this new order, distant from the mainland, isolated by water, and accessible only by canoe. By ruling from Nan Madol, the Saudalurs separated themselves from the people they governed. This separation was not accidental, it was political theater. The city's very design reinforced the idea that the rulers existed in a sacred realm, closer to the gods than to ordinary humans. Tribute flowed into Nan Madol from across the island: food, fish, breadfruit, yams, and taro. The common people labored to support a city they were rarely allowed to enter. Over time, resentment grew. But for centuries, the Saudalur system endured. Stones that should not move. The basalt columns used to build Nan Madol came from volcanic flows located miles away from the city. Some quarries were on the opposite side of the island, requiring stones to be transported across rough terrain and open water. Each column weighs between 1 and 5 tons, with some even heavier. Modern experiments suggest that transporting even one such stone would require dozens of people, carefully coordinated, using ropes, wooden sleds, and rafts. But Nan Madol required tens of thousands of these stones. This raises a critical question. Why would a society invest such enormous effort into building a city that produced no food, housed few people, and served primarily ritual and political purposes? The answer lies in control. By forcing the population to contribute labor and resources to Nan Madol, the Saudalur rulers reinforced their dominance. The city itself became a tool of power, its sheer impossibility convincing people that their rulers possessed supernatural authority. Over time, legends emerged to explain the unexplainable. Legends of flying stones. Pohnpeian oral traditions offer a very different explanation for Nan Madol's construction. According to legend, 2 brothers, Olisipa and Olosopa, arrived on Pohnpei seeking a place to build an altar to the god Nanison Sapwe. Finding no suitable land, they used magic to lift massive stones into the air, stacking them effortlessly into place. In some versions of the story, stones floated through the sky like birds. In others, they moved across the sea without touching the water. These legends are not mere fantasy. They reflect the deep cultural shock of witnessing or inheriting the memory of a construction feat that defied ordinary explanation. When magic could no longer sustain the work, one brother died and the other became the first Saudalur ruler. Thus, mythology and history intertwine. For archaeologists, these stories are invaluable, not as literal truth, but as cultural memory. They suggest that even the builders themselves understood Nan Madol as something extraordinary, something beyond normal human capability. A city designed for ritual, not life. Unlike most cities, Nan Madol shows little evidence of daily domestic life. Archaeological excavations have revealed few cooking areas, limited fresh water sources, and almost no agricultural activity. This indicates that Nan Madol was never meant to support a large permanent population. Instead, Nan Madol functioned as a ritual administrative center. Priests conducted ceremonies aligned with the ocean, the tides, and ancestral spirits. Rulers performed rituals that legitimized their authority. Death rituals, in particular, were central to the city's purpose. The dead Saudalur kings were believed to retain spiritual power, influencing the living world from beyond the grave. Nan Duas, the royal mortuary, was the spiritual heart of the city. Its isolation within the complex ensured that only the highest elites could approach the sacred remains. Even today, local people approach the site with caution, believing it to be inhabited by powerful spirits. The weight of isolation. While Nan Madol symbolized power, it also created vulnerability. The city's reliance on tribute meant that any disruption, famine, rebellion, or environmental change could threaten its survival. Over time, the Saudalur rulers grew increasingly oppressive. Oral traditions describe heavy taxation, forced labor, and disrespect towards local chiefs and gods. This imbalance set the stage for collapse. According to legend, a warrior named Isoka Lekel arrived from the island of Kasre.
Guided by prophecy and supported by local clans, he challenged the Saudalur rulers. In a series of battles, Isokalekel overthrew the dynasty, ending centuries of centralized rule. Nan Madol was abandoned soon after. Silence after power. Once the Saudalur dynasty fell, Nan Madol lost its purpose. The new rulers chose to govern from the mainland, closer to the people and food sources. Without constant maintenance, the canals silted up, walls collapsed, and mangroves reclaimed the stone islets. The ocean, which once protected the city, slowly consumed it. By the time European explorers arrived centuries later, Nan Madol was already a ruin, its story preserved not in books, but in whispered legends and sacred taboos.
The greatest mystery of Nan Madol does not lie in its ruins or legends alone, but in the silent question posed by its stones. Each massive basalt column rests where it was placed centuries ago, unmoving, weathered, and indifferent to modern doubt. Together, these stones form a city that should not exist, according to conventional assumptions about ancient engineering in Oceania. Yet, Nan Madol exists, and its very presence demands an explanation grounded in human effort, environmental knowledge, and social organization. Basalt, the primary building material of Nan Madol, is a volcanic rock formed from rapidly cooled lava. On Pohnpei, natural basalt columns occur in several locations, most notably along the island's rugged coastlines and inland volcanic flows. These columns naturally fracture into long, hexagonal or irregular prismatic shapes, making them suitable for stacking. However, suitability does not equal simplicity. Many of the stones used at Nan Madol weigh between 1 and 5 tons, with some exceeding even that. Transporting such materials without metal tools, wheeled vehicles, or draft animals represents a monumental challenge. Archaeological evidence suggests that the builders of Nan Madol relied on a combination of human labor, wooden technology, and deep environmental knowledge. Trees native to Pohnpei, such as breadfruit and palm, provided strong timber for sleds, rollers, and rafts. Fibers from coconut husks and vines were twisted into ropes capable of bearing immense weight. These materials, though organic and perishable, were remarkably effective when used by skilled hands, guided by experience passed down through generations. One widely accepted theory proposes that basalt columns were transported by raft along the coastline. Stones quarried near the shore could be rolled onto wooden platforms, secured with rope, and floated across the lagoon during calm seas. Timing would have been critical. The builders likely exploited tidal cycles, moving stones during high tide to reduce friction and effort. This method, while slow, would have allowed the movement of extremely heavy materials without the need for advanced machinery. Once the stones reached the construction site, the challenge shifted from transport to placement. The walls of Nan Madol were built using a distinctive crisscross technique, in which long basalt columns were laid horizontally and stacked in alternating directions. This method distributed weight evenly and increased structural stability without the use of mortar. Smaller coral stones and rubble were packed into the interior of walls, creating a solid core capable of withstanding both gravity and ocean currents. The precision of this construction suggests careful planning rather than improvisation. Islets were not built randomly. They followed a deliberate layout that reflected social hierarchy and ritual function. Larger, more complex structures were reserved for elite and sacred spaces, while smaller islets served support roles. This level of organization implies centralized authority capable of mobilizing labor on a massive scale. Nan Madol was not built by isolated families or small clans. It was the product of a powerful ruling system.
Labor itself was a form of control. The Saudalor rulers demanded tribute not only in food and goods, but in physical effort. Entire communities would have been required to participate in quarrying, transporting, and stacking stone. For the common people, working on Nan Madol was likely both a duty and a burden, reinforced by religious belief. If the rulers were seen as semi-divine, then building their sacred city became an act of devotion as well as obligation. Environmental adaptation also played a crucial role in the city's engineering. Nan Madol was constructed within a shallow lagoon protected by coral reefs, which acted as natural breakwaters against ocean waves. The builders understood the behavior of tides, currents, and storms. Islets were positioned to reduce erosion, and canals were designed to allow water flow while maintaining structural integrity. This knowledge was not written down, but encoded in practice, ritual, and oral tradition. Despite this sophistication, Nan Madol was not immune to environmental stress. Rising sea levels, increased storm activity, and gradual sediment buildup would have placed constant pressure on the city's foundations. Maintaining the canals and walls required ongoing labor. When political authority weakened, maintenance likely declined. Over time, the same ocean that made Nan Madol possible began to undermine it. Modern researchers have attempted to replicate aspects of Nan Madol's construction using traditional tools. These experiments demonstrate that moving multi-ton stones is possible with sufficient manpower and coordination, but they also highlight the immense cost in time and energy. Building Nan Madol would have taken generations, not years. Each stone placed represented countless hours of labor, reinforcing the idea that the city was as much a social project as an architectural one. Alternative theories occasionally emerge, ranging from lost technologies to supernatural assistance. While these ideas capture public imagination, they often underestimate human capability. History repeatedly shows that societies, when driven by belief, authority, and necessity, can achieve feats that appear impossible in hindsight. Nan Madol fits within this broader pattern, standing alongside monuments such as the pyramids of Egypt and the megaliths of Stonehenge. What sets Nan Madol apart, however, is its relationship with water. Building a city on the sea required not only physical strength, but conceptual innovation. The builders reimagined urban space, transforming a lagoon into a ceremonial landscape. Water became both barrier and pathway, isolating rulers while enabling controlled access. In this sense, engineering served ideology. The city's design reinforced the separation between the sacred elite and the ordinary world. The stones of Nan Madol are therefore more than construction materials. They are symbols of power, belief, and collective memory. Each basalt column carries the imprint of hands that shaped, moved, and placed it with purpose. Though the methods may never be fully understood, the result speaks clearly. This was not accidental architecture, nor the work of myth alone. It was the product of human determination, shaped by environment and belief. As researchers continue to study Nan Madol, new technologies such as satellite imaging and underwater archaeology reveal further details about its layout and foundations. Yet the core mystery remains unchanged. How did a society without metal and writing build a monumental city on water? The answer lies not in a single technique, but in the convergence of knowledge, organization, and faith. Nan Madol endures because it represents the limits of what we think ancient societies could do, and then quietly surpasses those limits. Its engineering secrets remind us that human history is not a straight line of progress, but a landscape of peaks and valleys where extraordinary achievements can rise in unexpected places.
Nan Madol was never meant to be an ordinary city.
Its purpose was not trade, agriculture, or daily domestic life, but ritual, authority, and spiritual control. Every stone, canal, and islet was shaped by belief. To understand Nan Madol fully, one must look beyond engineering and politics and enter the spiritual world that gave the city its meaning. For the people of Pohnpei, the physical and spiritual realms were deeply intertwined, and Nan Madol stood at the center of this sacred relationship. Religion on Pohnpei before and during the Saudeleur period was rooted in ancestor worship and the belief that spirits actively influenced the living world. Ancestors were not distant memories, they were powerful presences capable of granting fertility, protection, or disaster. The Saudeleur rulers positioned themselves as intermediaries between humans and the spirit world. By controlling rituals, they controlled access to divine favor. Nan Madol, isolated by water, became the stage upon which this sacred authority was performed. The layout of the city reflected a carefully structured ritual hierarchy. Certain islets were designated for priests, others for nobles, and some were strictly forbidden to common people. Movement through the city followed ritual rules. Canoes did not simply travel freely through the canals. Access was regulated according to status and purpose. This controlled movement reinforced the idea that Nan Madol was a sacred realm, separate from ordinary life on the mainland. At the heart of Nan Madol's spiritual life stood the mortuary complex of Nan Doas. This massive stone enclosure served as the burial place of Saudeleur rulers. Death, in Pohnpeian belief, did not mark an end, but a transformation. The spirits of dead rulers were thought to retain immense power, capable of influencing weather, harvests, and social stability. By burying their kings within a fortified, sacred space, the Saudeleurs ensured that this power remained under their control. Funerary rituals at Nan Doas were elaborate and deeply symbolic. Oral traditions describe ceremonies involving offerings of food, kava, and chants meant to guide the ruler's spirit into the ancestral realm. These rituals were not public events. Only select priests and elites were allowed to participate, further emphasizing the separation between rulers and the population. The mystery surrounding these rites strengthened the aura of divine authority. Priests played a central role in maintaining the spiritual order of Nan Madol. They were specialists in ritual knowledge, oral history, and sacred chants. Their authority did not come from political power alone, but from their perceived ability to communicate with spirits. Priests determined the timing of rituals, interpreted omens, and advised rulers on matters of governance. In this way, religion and politics were inseparable. The natural environment of Nan Madol was itself considered sacred. The ocean was not merely a physical barrier, but a living force inhabited by spirits. Tides, currents, and storms were interpreted as expressions of spiritual will. Rituals were often timed according to lunar cycles and tidal patterns, reflecting a deep understanding of natural rhythms. This alignment between ritual and environment reinforced the belief that the Saudeleur rulers governed in harmony with cosmic forces. Food offerings were central to ritual life. Since Nan Madol produced no food of its own, all sustenance had to be brought from the mainland as tribute. This dependency was symbolic. By receiving food from the people, the rulers reaffirmed their dominance, while redistributing offerings during rituals reinforced their role as providers of spiritual balance. Feast and famine alike were interpreted through a religious lens. Daily life within Nan Madol was quiet and controlled. Unlike bustling urban centers elsewhere in the world, the city likely housed only a small permanent population. Silence, punctuated by ritual chants and the sound of water moving through canals, would have dominated the atmosphere. This calm was intentional. Sacred spaces were meant to inspire awe, fear, and reverence. The absence of ordinary noise reinforced the city's otherworldly character. Taboos governed behavior within the city. Certain actions, foods, or words were forbidden in sacred areas. Violating these taboos was believed to anger the spirits, resulting in illness or misfortune. Such beliefs functioned as powerful social controls, ensuring obedience without the constant use of force. Fear of spiritual punishment could be more effective than physical coercion. Over time, however, the very system that sustained Nan Madol began to strain. As the Saudalar rulers demanded more tribute and labor, rituals shifted from communal balance to elite preservation. Oral traditions suggest that the rulers became increasingly disconnected from the spiritual values they claimed to uphold. Disrespect toward local gods and ancestral spirits undermined their legitimacy. This spiritual imbalance played a crucial role in the city's eventual decline. In Pohnpeian belief, loss of divine favor inevitably leads to downfall. When Histroy arrived to challenge the Saudalers, he was seen not merely as a warrior, but as an instrument of spiritual justice. His success was interpreted as proof that the spirits had withdrawn their support from the old rulers. After the fall of the Saudalar dynasty, Nan Madol lost its sacred centrality. Rituals ceased, priests left, and the city's spiritual power faded. Yet the site did not become ordinary. Even in abandonment, Nan Madol remained charged with meaning. Local people avoided the ruins, believing them to be inhabited by restless spirits. This avoidance inadvertently preserved the site, protecting it from destruction or reuse. Today, Nan Madol continues to occupy a unique place in spiritual imagination. Archaeologists see stone and structure, but local traditions see presence and memory. The city exists simultaneously as a historical site and a sacred landscape. This dual identity challenges modern interpretations that separate religion from daily life. The ritual world of Nan Madol reminds us that ancient architecture cannot be understood through function alone. Stones were not placed merely to build walls, but to shape belief. Canals were not just waterways, but boundaries between the sacred and the profane. Every aspect of the city was designed to communicate power through spirituality. In this way, Nan Madol was not only a political capital or an engineering marvel, it was a ritual machine, carefully constructed to sustain a worldview in which rulers, ancestors, and nature were bound together. Its stones still stand, not because they were perfectly engineered, but because they were deeply meaningful. As long as Nan Madol endures, it continues to speak, not in words, but in silence, of a world where faith shaped cities and cities shaped faith.
No system of power, no matter how monumental, lasts forever. Nan Madol, once the sacred heart of authority in Pohnpei, eventually became a symbol of imbalance, excess, and decline. The fall of the Saudalar dynasty was not sudden, nor was it caused by a single event. It was the result of long-building tension between rulers and people, between spiritual obligation and political exploitation. When collapse finally came, it reshaped Pohnpeian society and transformed Nan Madol from a living center of power into a silent ruin. For generations, the Saudalar rulers maintained control through ritual authority and centralized governance. However, as time passed, their rule grew increasingly rigid. Oral traditions describe later Saudalar kings as distant, demanding, and indifferent to the suffering of the people. Tribute increased, labor demands intensified, and local chiefs lost autonomy. What had once been a system justified by spiritual balance slowly became one of domination. Food shortages worsened the situation. Because Nan Madol produced no food of its own, it depended entirely on supplies from the mainland. During periods of poor harvests or environmental stress, the burden on common people became unbearable. Yet tribute demands did not ease. This imbalance eroded the belief that the Saudelar rulers governed with divine approval. In a society where legitimacy was rooted in spiritual harmony, this loss of faith was critical. Equally damaging was the perceived disrespect shown by the Saudelars toward local gods and ancestral spirits. According to tradition, some rulers violated sacred customs, neglected rituals, or placed themselves above the spiritual order they were meant to uphold. Such actions were believed to anger the spirits, causing natural disasters, illness, and social unrest. In the Pohnpeian worldview, these signs were clear warnings that the rulers had lost divine favor. It was in this atmosphere of dissatisfaction and spiritual anxiety that the figure of Isokelekel emerged. Oral histories describe him as a warrior from the island of Khosrei, though some versions portray him as semi-divine, born of a local woman and a foreign god. His arrival was not seen as random. Prophecies had foretold the fall of the Saudelars, and Isokelekel was believed to be the instrument of that destiny. Isokelekel did not arrive alone. He came with followers and quickly formed alliances with local clans who resented Saudelar rule. These alliances were crucial. Unlike the centralized Saudelar system, Isokelekel's movement drew strength from decentralized support. Chiefs who had long been marginalized saw an opportunity to reclaim authority. The conflict was as much social and spiritual as it was military. The conflict between Isokelekel and the Saudelar rulers unfolded over time rather than in a single decisive battle. Oral traditions describe a series of confrontations, strategic retreats, and symbolic victories. One famous story tells of Isokelekel luring Saudelar warriors into overconfidence, then defeating them through cunning rather than brute force. These stories emphasize intelligence and spiritual guidance over sheer strength. Nan Madol itself became a liability during the conflict. Its isolation, once a symbol of power, now limited the ruler's ability to respond quickly. The canals that controlled access also restricted movement. As support for the Saudelars weakened, maintaining control over the city became increasingly difficult. The very architecture that had reinforced authority now exposed vulnerability. The final defeat of the Saudelar ruler marked the end of centralized rule on Pohnpei. Isokelekel did not replace the old system with another rigid hierarchy. Instead, he established the non-monarchy system, a decentralized form of governance that restored power to local chiefs. This shift reflected a broader cultural correction, a return to balance after centuries of concentration of authority. With the fall of the Saudelars, Nan Madol lost its political and spiritual function. The new rulers chose not to govern from the stone city. They understood that its symbolism was tied too closely to the old regime. Instead, power returned to the mainland, closer to the people and the land that sustained them. Without rulers, priests, or rituals, Nan Madol was left behind. Abandonment did not happen overnight. For a time, the city may have been visited for specific rituals or out of respect for ancestral spirits, but gradually maintenance ceased. Canals filled with sediment, walls collapsed, and vegetation took root among the stones. The ocean reclaimed what human hands had built. Yet Nan Madol was never forgotten. Its ruins became a place of caution and reverence. Stories warned against disturbing the stones, which were believed to be guarded by powerful spirits. This fear protected the site from destruction and reuse. Unlike many ancient cities that were dismantled for building materials, Nan Madol remained largely intact, preserved by belief rather than law. The fall of the Saudelar dynasty reshaped Pohnpeian identity. It reinforced the idea that power must remain balanced and accountable. Centralized authority without respect for spiritual and social obligations was seen as dangerous. This lesson was passed down through generations, encoded in stories of Nan Madol's rise and fall. From a historical perspective, the collapse of Nan Madol illustrates a universal pattern. Monumental architecture can project power, but it cannot sustain legitimacy on its own. When belief erodes, even the strongest walls become meaningless. Nan Madol's stones did not fail structurally, they failed symbolically. Today, the ruins stand as a reminder of both human achievement and human limitation. They tell the story of a society that reached extraordinary heights through organization, belief, and labor, but fell when those same forces became unbalanced. Nan Madol did not collapse in flames or conquest alone. It faded as its purpose disappeared. The fall of the Saudalur was not merely the end of a dynasty, it was the end of an idea, that power could exist apart from the people and the land. In abandoning Nan Madol, the people of Pohnpei chose a different path, one rooted in shared authority and closer connection to everyday life. Nan Madol remains, silent and enduring, as the final witness to that choice.
Long after the fall of the Saudalur dynasty and the abandonment of Nan Madol, the stone city continued to exist in a space between history and myth. For centuries, it remained largely untouched, protected not by walls or guards, but by fear, reverence, and memory. When the modern world finally turned its attention toward Nan Madol, it encountered not a dead ruin, but a living landscape shaped by belief, mystery, and unanswered questions. The first written accounts of Nan Madol by outsiders appeared in the 19th century when European explorers and missionaries reached Pohnpei. They were astonished by what they found: massive stone structures rising from the sea, constructed with a level of effort that seemed impossible for a small island society. Early observers often misunderstood the site, describing it as the work of a lost civilization or attributing it to foreign builders. These interpretations reflected more about colonial assumptions than historical reality. Systematic archaeological study began in the 20th century. Researchers mapped the islets, measured the walls, and cataloged artifacts such as pottery fragments, shell tools, and food remains. Radiocarbon dating helped establish a clearer timeline, confirming that Nan Madol was built and expanded primarily between the 13th and 16th centuries. These findings supported oral traditions rather than contradicting them, demonstrating the reliability of indigenous historical memory. Despite these advances, archaeology at Nan Madol remains challenging. The site is vast, partially submerged, and constantly affected by tides and vegetation. Many areas have never been fully excavated, and underwater structures remain largely unexplored. Each new survey reveals additional complexity, suggesting that the city was more extensive and carefully planned than previously believed. One of the most intriguing discoveries involves the city's relationship with the surrounding environment. Studies indicate that the builders deliberately selected coral reefs and tidal patterns to stabilize the islets. Rather than fighting nature, they worked with it, using natural processes to reinforce their construction. This ecological intelligence challenges modern assumptions about sustainability, showing that ancient societies could achieve monumental scale without complete environmental destruction. Yet, even as science sheds light on Nan Madol, mysteries persist. The exact methods used to transport and lift the heaviest stones remain uncertain. While experimental archaeology demonstrates that human labor alone could accomplish the task, the scale of coordination required is still difficult to fully explain. How were thousands of workers fed, organized, and motivated over generations? The answer lies partly in belief, but belief itself raises further questions. Local myths remain central to understanding Nan Madol.
Stories of flying stones, spirit guardians, and supernatural builders are not dismissed by local communities as mere fantasy. Instead, they're seen as symbolic expressions of truth, reflecting the extraordinary nature of the city's creation. For many Pohnpeians, these stories coexist comfortably with scientific explanations, each addressing different dimensions of reality. Some legends speak of hidden chambers and sacred objects still buried beneath the stones. Others warn that disturbing certain areas can bring illness or misfortune. These beliefs have influenced modern research, as archaeologists must navigate not only physical challenges, but cultural sensitivities. Collaboration with local communities has become essential, ensuring that scientific inquiry does not violate spiritual boundaries. In 2016, Nan Madol was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site, recognized for its cultural and historical significance. This international recognition brought increased attention and tourism, along with new challenges. Rising sea levels, intensified storms, and coastal erosion now threaten the fragile ruins. Climate change has turned Nan Madol into a frontline site where ancient heritage confronts modern environmental crisis. Preservation efforts face difficult choices. Should walls be reinforced, potentially altering their original form? Or should the site be allowed to change naturally, as it has for centuries? These questions reflect broader debates in heritage conservation, where authenticity, sustainability, and cultural respect must be carefully balanced. Nan Madol's significance extends beyond archaeology. It challenges global narratives of human development that prioritize large continental societies over island societies. The city demonstrates that complex political systems, monumental architecture, and sophisticated environmental knowledge can emerge in places often dismissed as peripheral. In this sense, Nan Madol reshapes our understanding of world history. The site also invites reflection on the nature of power. Nan Madol was built to separate rulers from the people, to elevate authority through ritual and architecture. Its abandonment reminds us that such systems are fragile. When belief fades, even the most imposing structures lose meaning. The stones remain, but the power they once symbolized does not. For modern visitors, Nan Madol evokes a sense of quiet awe. There are no grand inscriptions explaining its purpose, no statues proclaiming victories. Instead, there is water, stone, and silence. This absence invites imagination, encouraging each generation to interpret the city anew. In this way, Nan Madol continues to live, not as a finished story, but as an ongoing conversation. Unsolved mysteries ensure that the city remains relevant. What rituals took place in its most restricted spaces? How did daily life feel for those few who lived there? What knowledge was lost when the Saudileur system collapsed? These questions may never be fully answered, but their persistence is part of Nan Madol's power. Nan Madol stands as a bridge between past and present, myth and science, human ambition and natural force. It reminds us that history is not only written in texts, but embedded in landscapes. Stones remember what people forget, and water preserves what time tries to erase. In the end, Nan Madol is not defined by mystery alone, but by meaning. It tells a story of belief strong enough to move mountains, or at least stones weighing tons. It speaks of a society that dared to build a city on the sea, and of the lessons learned when that city was left behind. As long as the tides continue to flow through its canals, Nan Madol will remain a place where the past is never truly silent.
Long after the fall of the Saudileur dynasty and the abandonment of Nan Madol, the stone city continued to exist in a space between history and myth. For centuries, it remained largely untouched, protected not by walls or guards, but by fear, reverence, and memory.
When the modern world finally turned its attention toward Nan Madol, it encountered not a dead ruin, but a living landscape shaped by belief, mystery, and unanswered questions. The first written accounts of Nan Madol by outsiders appeared in the 19th century when European explorers and missionaries reached Pohnpei. They were astonished by what they found: massive stone structures rising from the sea, constructed with a level of effort that seemed impossible for a small island society. Early observers often misunderstood the site, describing it as the work of a lost civilization or attributing it to foreign builders. These interpretations reflected more about colonial assumptions than historical reality. Systematic archaeological study began in the 20th century. Researchers mapped the islets, measured the walls, and cataloged artifacts such as pottery fragments, shell tools, and food remains. Carbon dating helped establish a clearer timeline, confirming that Nan Madol was built and expanded primarily between the 13th and 16th centuries. These findings supported oral traditions rather than contradicting them, demonstrating the reliability of indigenous historical memory. Despite these advances, archaeology at Nan Madol remains challenging. The site is vast, partially submerged, and constantly affected by tides and vegetation. Many areas have never been fully excavated, and underwater structures remain largely unexplored. Each new survey reveals additional complexity, suggesting that the city was more extensive and carefully planned than previously believed. One of the most intriguing discoveries involves the city's relationship with the surrounding environment. Studies indicate that the builders deliberately selected coral reefs and tidal patterns to stabilize the islets. Rather than fighting nature, they worked with it, using natural processes to reinforce their construction. This ecological intelligence challenges modern assumptions about sustainability, showing that ancient societies could achieve monumental scale without complete environmental destruction. Yet even as science sheds light on Nan Madol, mysteries persist. The exact methods used to transport and lift the heaviest stones remain uncertain. While experimental archaeology demonstrates that human labor alone could accomplish the task, the scale of coordination required is still difficult to fully explain. How were thousands of workers fed, organized, and motivated over generations? The answer lies partly in belief, but belief itself raises further questions. Local myths remain central to understanding Nan Madol. Stories of flying stones, spirit guardians, and supernatural builders are not dismissed by local communities as mere fantasy. Instead, they are seen as symbolic expressions of truth, reflecting the extraordinary nature of the city's creation. For many Pohnpeians, these stories coexist comfortably with scientific explanations, each addressing different dimensions of reality. Some legends speak of hidden chambers and secret objects still buried beneath the stones. Others warn that disturbing certain areas can bring illness or misfortune. These beliefs have influenced modern research, as archaeologists must navigate not only physical challenges but cultural sensitivities. Collaboration with local communities has become essential, ensuring that scientific inquiry does not violate spiritual boundaries. In 2016, Nan Madol was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site, recognized for its cultural and historical significance. This international recognition brought increased attention and tourism, along with new challenges. Rising sea levels, intensified storms, and coastal erosion now threaten the fragile ruins. Climate change has turned Nan Madol into a frontline site where ancient heritage confronts modern environmental crisis. Preservation efforts face difficult choices. Should walls be reinforced, potentially altering their original form? Or should the site be allowed to change naturally, as it has for centuries? These questions reflect broader debates in heritage conservation, where authenticity, sustainability, and cultural respect must be carefully balanced. Nan Madol's significance extends beyond archaeology. It challenges global narratives of human development that prioritize large continental societies over island societies. The city demonstrates that complex political systems, monumental architecture, and sophisticated environmental knowledge can emerge in places often dismissed as peripheral. In this sense, Nan Madol reshapes our understanding of world history. The site also invites reflection on the nature of power. Nan Madol was built to separate rulers from the people, to elevate authority through ritual and architecture. Its abandonment reminds us that such systems are fragile. When belief fades, even the most imposing structures lose meaning. The stones remain, but the power they once symbolized does not. For modern visitors, Nan Madol evokes a sense of quiet awe. There are no grand inscriptions explaining its purpose, no statues proclaiming victories. Instead, there is water, stone, and silence. This absence invites imagination, encouraging each generation to interpret the city anew. In this way, Nan Madol continues to live, not as a finished story, but as an ongoing conversation. Unsolved mysteries ensure that the city remains relevant. What rituals took place in its most restricted spaces? How did daily life feel for those few who lived there? What knowledge was lost when the Saudallur system collapsed? These questions may never be fully answered, but their persistence is part of Nan Madol's power. Nan Madol stands as a bridge between past and present, myth and science, human ambition and natural force. It reminds us that history is not only written in texts, but embedded in landscapes. Stones remember what people forget, and water preserves what time tries to erase. In the end, Nan Madol is not defined by mystery alone, but by meaning. It tells a story of belief strong enough to move mountains, or at least stones weighing tons. It speaks of a society that dared to build a city on the sea, and of the lessons learned when that city was left behind. As long as the tides continue to flow through its canals, Nan Madol will remain a place where the past is never truly silent.
Nan Madol's story does not end with ruins, climate threats, or academic debates. Its deepest significance lies in how it reshapes the way humanity understands itself. Beyond archaeology and legend, Nan Madol occupies a rare position in the human story, a place where memory, meaning, and identity converge. It forces modern observers to confront uncomfortable truths about progress, power, and the selective way history is remembered. Human history is often told through dominant civilizations, those that left behind written records, empires, and conquest narratives. Societies without writing are frequently treated as background or prelude. Nan Madol challenges this hierarchy. It demonstrates that memory does not require ink and paper to endure. Oral tradition, ritual practice, and sacred geography can preserve history with remarkable accuracy and emotional depth. The stones of Nan Madol are not mute because they lack inscriptions. They speak through context, placement, and survival. In many ways, Nan Madol represents an alternative model of civilization. It was not driven by territorial expansion, long-distance trade empires, or technological escalation. Instead, it was driven by belief in ancestors, spirits, and the legitimacy of sacred authority. This belief mobilized labor, shaped architecture, and organized society. While modern perspectives often separate religion from governance, Nan Madol shows a world where such separation did not exist. This fusion of belief and power offers a cautionary lesson. The same spiritual system that enabled cooperation on an immense scale also justified inequality and exploitation. Nan Madol's grandeur was built on the labor of many for the benefit of few. When belief shifted from shared harmony to enforced obedience,
the system collapsed. This pattern is not unique to Pohnpei. It echoes across civilizations worldwide. Comparisons between Nan Madol and other ancient sites reveal both similarities and striking differences. Like the pyramids of Egypt, Nan Madol used monumental construction to express divine authority. Like Angkor, it integrated water management with sacred design. Yet unlike these places, Nan Madol lacked inscriptions glorifying rulers or victories. Its power was quieter, more implicit, embedded in spatial control rather than proclamation. This silence complicates interpretation. Without written records, modern scholars must rely on material evidence and oral tradition. This reliance has historically led to skepticism, especially during colonial eras when indigenous knowledge was dismissed as myth. Today, that attitude is changing. Nan Madol has become a case study in why indigenous perspectives are essential to understanding the past. Memory at Nan Madol is layered rather than linear. For archaeologists, memory is encoded in stratigraphy and stone alignment. For local communities, memory lives in stories, taboos, and emotional responses to place. These forms of memory do not compete, they complement each other. Together, they create a fuller picture than either could alone. Nan Madol also raises questions about loss and permanence. Modern societies often assume that progress means preservation, that what is valuable must be protected indefinitely. But Nan Madol was never designed to be eternal. Its builders accepted change as part of existence. The city's gradual return to the sea may not represent failure, but completion. From this perspective, disappearance is not erasure, but transformation. This idea challenges modern conservation ethics. Should humanity strive to freeze ancient sites in time or respect their natural life cycles? Nan Madol invites a middle path, one that preserves knowledge and meaning even if physical structures change. Documentation, storytelling, and cultural continuity may ultimately matter more than stone reinforcement. Nan Madol's meaning also extends into discussions of identity in a globalized world. For Pacific Islanders, the city stands as evidence that their ancestors were not passive or isolated, but innovators who shaped their environment with intention and skill. This recognition counters centuries of marginalization and restores historical agency. For the wider world, Nan Madol disrupts assumptions about where knowledge comes from. It reminds us that sophistication is not exclusive to large populations or continental centers. Human creativity adapts to context. On a small island, surrounded by water, civilization took a form that was fluid, symbolic, and deeply ecological. Nan Madol's story also resonates with modern concerns about power concentration. The Saudalaire Septum centralized authority physically and spiritually, separating rulers from the people they governed. This separation eventually collapsed. In an era where political and economic power often feels distant and abstract, Nan Madol offers a historical mirror. It asks whether systems that isolate authority can truly endure. Emotion plays a subtle but important role in Nan Madol's legacy. Visitors often describe feelings of unease, calm, or reverence rather than excitement. The city does not overwhelm, it envelops. This emotional response suggests that architecture can shape experience long after its original purpose has vanished. Nan Madol was designed to be felt, not merely seen. The continued fascination with Nan Madol, through documentaries, research, and storytelling, reveals a deeper human need. People are drawn to places that resist easy explanation. Mystery invites humility. Nan Madol reminds modern societies, accustomed to technological confidence, that not all knowledge is complete and not all questions have final answers. In this sense, Nan Madol is not a problem to be solved, but a dialogue to be maintained.
Each generation approaches it with new tools, concerns, and perspectives. Archaeologists bring technology, local communities bring memory, and visitors bring curiosity. The city absorbs all of these without losing its essence. Nan Madol's ultimate place in the human story is therefore not fixed. It shifts as humanity changes. Once a capital of sacred power, then a forbidden ruin, now a global heritage site. It continues to evolve. Its meaning is not locked in the past, it is negotiated in the present. Perhaps this is Nan Madol's greatest lesson. Civilization is not defined solely by what it builds, but how it remembers, interprets, and learns from what it leaves behind. Stones may sink, walls may crumble, but meaning can endure if people choose to carry it forward. Nan Madol stands at the intersection of memory and imagination. It belongs neither entirely to history nor to myth, but to the space between them. And in that space, it continues to ask humanity the same quiet question it has asked for centuries. Not how great we can build, but how wisely we can balance power, belief, and belonging. As long as that question remains relevant, Nan Madol will remain alive, not only in the Pacific, but in the shared consciousness of the human story.
Nan Madol does not conclude like most histories. There is no final conquest, no dramatic rediscovery that restores it to glory, and no single truth that closes the narrative. Instead, Nan Madol ends the way it was always meant to exist, quietly, ambiguously, and in motion. Its story is not sealed in stone. It flows like the water that still moves through its canals. To stand before Nan Madol today is to confront time itself. The stones appear ancient yet unfinished. Walls rise and fall into the sea as if caught between construction and collapse. Mangroves push through basalt corridors, reclaiming space without violence. The city feels less like a ruin and more like a transition, an idea slowly returning to nature. This quality sets Nan Madol apart from many ancient sites. It was never meant to dominate the landscape permanently. It was built with an understanding that all things, power, belief, and even stone, are temporary. In this sense, Nan Madol reflects a worldview fundamentally different from modern assumptions about permanence and progress. The people who built Nan Madol did not leave behind written explanations of their intentions, yet their choices speak clearly. They chose water over land, ritual over expansion, symbolism over visibility. They invested generations of labor into a city that served meaning rather than comfort. This decision alone challenges modern definitions of success. Nan Madol reminds us that civilizations are not only economic systems or political machines, they are expressions of how humans understand their place in the universe. For the Saudeleur rulers and their society, the universe was alive, inhabited by ancestors, spirits, tides, and unseen forces. Power came not from controlling nature, but from aligning with it, or at least appearing to do so. When that alignment was lost, the city lost its purpose. The fall of Nan Madol was not an accident of history, it was a consequence of imbalance. Authority became isolated, ritual became obligation, belief became fear. The stones did not crumble because they were weak, they were abandoned because they no longer represented shared meaning. This distinction matters. Many civilizations collapse through invasion or disaster. Nan Madol faded because its social contract dissolved. The people withdrew their belief, and without belief, the city became hollow. In the modern world, this lesson resonates deeply. We live among systems that appear monumental, financial structures, digital networks, political institutions that feel as immovable as stone.
Nan Madol reminds us that no structure is permanent if it loses legitimacy. Power survives only as long as people believe in it. Yet Nan Madol is not a story of failure, it is a story of transformation. After its abandonment, the city did not vanish from memory. It shifted roles, from capital to cautionary tale, from sacred center to forbidden place, from living city to ancestral presence. Each phase preserved a different layer of meaning. This ability to transform without disappearing is part of Nan Madol's endurance. Modern archaeology has added another layer. Scientific tools now map, measure, and analyze what was once known only through story. But science has not replaced myth, it has joined it. Together they form a dialogue rather than a debate. Nan Madol resists reduction to a single explanation. This resistance is valuable. In an age that seeks clear answers and definitive conclusions, Nan Madol teaches patience. It teaches respect for complexity. It reminds us that some truths are plural, shaped by perspective rather than proof alone. Nan Madol also exposes the limits of modern confidence. Despite satellites, sonar, and advanced modeling, we still cannot fully explain how the city was built, how labor was sustained, or how belief was maintained across centuries. This is not a failure of science, it is a reminder of humility. Human capability has always exceeded the categories we place it in. For Pacific Islanders, Nan Madol continues to function as cultural evidence. It affirms that their ancestors were not passive recipients of history, but active creators of it. This affirmation matters in a world where indigenous histories have often been minimized or erased. For the global community, Nan Madol expands the map of human achievement. It proves that complexity does not require empires, that innovation does not require metal, and that memory does not require writing. Civilization is not a single path, it is a spectrum of possibilities. Nan Madol occupies one of those possibilities, shaped by ocean, stone, and spirit. The future of Nan Madol remains uncertain. Climate change threatens its physical survival. Rising seas may one day submerge parts of the city completely. But physical loss does not equal cultural death. In many ways, Nan Madol has already transcended its material form. Its true survival depends on storytelling. As long as people continue to tell its story through research, oral tradition, film, education, and reflection, Nan Madol will remain present, not as a tourist attraction alone, but as a reference point for how humans organize meaning. Perhaps this is the city's final role, no longer a capital of rulers, but a capital of questions. What does power look like when separated from land? How does belief mobilize societies? What happens when authority forgets balance? How should humanity remember what it cannot fully preserve? Nan Madol does not answer these questions, it holds them. In doing so, it becomes more than a historical site, it becomes a mirror. Each generation sees its own concerns reflected in the stones. To some, it is an engineering mystery, to others, a spiritual warning, to others still, a symbol of resilience or loss. This openness is its strength. The city that once controlled access now invites interpretation. The canals that once restricted movement now carry imagination. The walls that once separated ruler and people now connect past and present. Nan Madol has completed its transformation from a city of command to a city of meaning. And perhaps that is the most enduring form of legacy. When the tides rise and fall, when stones shift and stories evolve, Nan Madol remains, not fixed in place, but alive in thought. It reminds humanity that the greatest monuments are not those that last forever,
but those that continue to matter. In the end, Nan Madol teaches a quiet truth. Civilizations do not live in stone alone. They live in memory, in balance, and in the willingness to listen to what the past is still trying to say.
Nan Madol's journey does not end with epilogues or conclusions. Some places refuse to be finished because their true function is not to close a story, but to open new ways of thinking. Nan Madol is one such place. As time moves forward and the world changes, the Stone City continues to project its influence beyond geography, beyond archaeology, and beyond history itself. It has become a reference point for how humanity imagines the past and, quietly, the future. In the modern imagination, Nan Madol occupies a rare position. It is neither fully explained nor fully unknown. This balance allows it to serve as a bridge between certainty and wonder. Unlike sites that have been exhaustively documented, reconstructed, and categorized, Nan Madol still resists complete ownership by knowledge. This resistance keeps it alive in the cultural mind. The city's ambiguity fuels creativity. Writers, filmmakers, artists, and thinkers are drawn to Nan Madol not because it offers clear answers, but because it invites interpretation. It becomes a canvas onto which modern concerns are projected: climate anxiety, power imbalance, spiritual loss, and the search for meaning in a technological age. In this sense, Nan Madol is not only about the past, it is about the questions people are asking now. One of the most striking aspects of Nan Madol is how it redefines the idea of progress. Modern societies often measure advancement through speed, efficiency, and expansion. Nan Madol represents a different trajectory. Its builders invested centuries into a project that did not increase production, wealth, or territorial control. Instead, they built meaning. Progress in this context was measured in alignment between rulers and spirits, humans and nature, and memory and space. This alternative model of progress has gained renewed relevance in the 21st century. As modern systems strain under environmental limits and social fragmentation, Nan Madol offers a counter-narrative. It suggests that not all growth must be outward, and not all achievement must be visible from afar. Some civilizations grow inward, deepening their relationship with belief, place, and identity. Nan Madol also forces a reconsideration of intelligence. For a long time, intelligence was equated with writing, mathematics, and machinery. The city challenges this narrow view. Its intelligence was ecological, social, and symbolic. The builders understood tides without equations, authority without bureaucracy, and memory without archives. Their intelligence was embedded in practice rather than abstraction. This realization has implications far beyond archaeology. It encourages respect for knowledge systems that operate outside modern frameworks. Indigenous ways of knowing, often dismissed as anecdotal or unscientific, are increasingly recognized as sophisticated, adaptive, and resilient. Nan Madol stands as physical proof of this sophistication. The city's relationship with water offers another lesson for the future. Nan Madol did not attempt to dominate the ocean. It accepted water as both partner and boundary. In an era of rising seas and coastal vulnerability, this philosophy feels prophetic. Rather than resisting water with rigid barriers, Nan Madol worked within its rhythms. The city's eventual submergence was not a failure of design, but an accepted possibility. This acceptance contrasts sharply with modern infrastructure, which often assumes permanence in an impermanent world. Nan Madol suggests a different ethic, one that values adaptability over control. In this ethic, loss is not always catastrophe. Sometimes it is transition. Nan Madol's future may therefore lie less in physical preservation and more in conceptual influence. Even if parts of the city disappear beneath the sea, its ideas will remain relevant. The notion that cities can be symbolic rather than utilitarian, that power must remain connected to belief and balance, and that memory can survive without monuments. these ideas transcend stone. Education plays a crucial role in carrying this influence forward. When Nan Madol is taught not as an isolated curiosity, but as part of global human history, it reshapes how students understand civilization. It expands the map of achievement and challenges the assumption that complexity follows a single path. In doing so, it nurtures intellectual humility. Nan Madol also invites a more ethical approach to heritage. Too often, ancient sites are extracted from their cultural contexts and repackaged for consumption. Nan Madol resists this treatment. Its meaning depends on respect for local communities, for spiritual traditions, and for uncertainty itself. This resistance offers a model for how heritage might be engaged without being owned. In the digital age, Nan Madol has found new forms of existence. Satellite images, virtual reconstructions, documentaries, and online narratives allow the city to be experienced by people who may never visit Pohnpei. While this accessibility brings risks of oversimplification, it also ensures continuity. The city now exists simultaneously in stone and in data, in place and in imagination. This dual existence raises an important question. What does it mean for a city to survive? Is survival measured by physical integrity or by relevance? Nan Madol suggests that relevance may be the deeper measure. A city that continues to inspire thought, debate, and reflection is alive in a meaningful sense, even if its walls erode. Nan Madol's influence can also be seen in how it reshapes narratives of small-scale societies. It undermines the assumption that size determines significance. Pohnpei was never a global power, yet it produced one of the most unusual urban landscapes in human history. This challenges the idea that only large populations or empires shape the course of civilization. In this way, Nan Madol democratizes history. It reminds us that every culture, no matter of scale, has the potential to contribute something unique to humanity's shared story. The city on the sea did not conquer others, but it conquered assumptions. Emotionally, Nan Madol continues to resonate because it feels unresolved. Unlike ruins that clearly belong to the past, Nan Madol feels suspended. This suspension mirrors modern uncertainty. We live in a time where old systems are questioned and new ones are not yet formed. Nan Madol, caught between rise and disappearance, reflects that liminal state. Perhaps this is why the city continues to attract attention. It does not offer comfort, but recognition. It acknowledges that civilizations, like individuals, move through phases of confidence, imbalance, correction, and reflection. Nan Madol is a reminder that endings are not always endings, they are reconfigurations. Looking forward, Nan Madol may increasingly serve as a symbol rather than a site, a symbol of alternative intelligence, a symbol of belief-driven architecture, a symbol of humility in the face of nature. Symbols, like stones, are not eroded by tides. The city's greatest contribution to the future may be its refusal to be simplified. In a world that seeks efficiency and clarity, Nan Madol insists on depth and ambiguity. It asks humanity to slow down, to listen, and to accept that not all greatness is loud. Nan Madol does not point towards a specific future. Instead, it expands the range of futures we can imagine. It suggests that civilizations can be meaningful without being dominant, enduring without being permanent, and influential without being understood completely. As humanity continues to build, dismantle, and rebuild its worlds, physical and digital, Nan Madol stands quietly at the edge of thought. It does not demand imitation, it offers perspective. Beyond the horizon of the Pacific, beyond the reach of certainty, the Stone City remains what it has always been, a place where human imagination meets its limits and then gently moves past them.
Nan Madol's story, stretching across centuries, does not end with the collapse of rulers, the abandonment of its islets or the erosion of its canals. It continues, alive in thought, memory, and imagination. Part 10 is not a mere conclusion. It is a meditation on what this city of stone teaches humanity across time. Its enduring relevance lies not in the walls or structures themselves, but in the lessons embedded in their creation, purpose, and eventual transformation. The first lesson is about vision and collective effort. Nan Madol was built over centuries by human hands, guided by belief and structured labor. It demonstrates that even small populations can achieve monumental feats when purpose is shared and when coordination and dedication align with a collective worldview. In a modern era dominated by assumptions about scale, technology, and wealth as prerequisites for achievement, Nan Madol reminds us that imagination, social cohesion, and belief can produce results as impressive as any empire's monuments. Second, Nan Madol teaches the fragile nature of authority. The Saudallur dynasty maintained control not through brute force alone, but through a sophisticated combination of spiritual legitimacy and social organization. By positioning themselves as intermediaries between the living and the divine, the rulers created a system that both inspired obedience and centralized power. Yet this system was inherently fragile. When belief shifted, when rituals were neglected, or when social imbalance grew too extreme, the authority collapsed. Power, Nan Madol shows, is only as enduring as the faith that sustains it. This leads to the third lesson: balance between human activity and natural forces. Nan Madol was constructed in a lagoon, built upon coral reefs, with stone and water carefully integrated. Its creators did not dominate nature completely. They worked with tides, currents, and the ecological rhythms of their environment. Even as modern societies attempt to control and contain nature with technology, Nan Madol's design is a reminder that harmony, observation, and adaptation often yield better longevity than domination alone. When humans separate themselves too far from natural rhythms, consequences, whether social, ecological, or structural, inevitably follow. Fourth, the city emphasizes the role of ritual and spirituality in shaping human systems. Nan Madol was not just a political center, it was a sacred landscape. Ritual dictated the use of space, regulated movement, and defined hierarchy. The interweaving of spiritual and political power created stability for centuries. Its eventual abandonment highlights the consequences of neglecting the moral and spiritual dimensions of leadership. In the modern context, where governance and technology often replace ritual and shared meaning, Nan Madol reminds us that human societies thrive not only on rules and structures, but also on shared values, symbols, and beliefs. Fifth, Nan Madol embodies resilience through transformation. Though abandoned, its ruins persist, partially submerged yet remarkably intact. Over centuries, the city adapted passively to changing conditions. It was not preserved artificially, but survived due to reverence, memory, and cautious avoidance by locals. This resilience is instructive. Survival does not always require active intervention. Sometimes longevity arises from respect, balance, and the capacity to endure change gracefully. Nan Madol teaches that adaptation can be passive as well as active, and that endurance is often a combination of human care and natural rhythm. Sixth, the city is a profound statement about memory and storytelling. Without written records, the Pohnpeian people preserved Nan Madol's history, culture, and moral lessons through oral tradition. Centuries later, archaeologists and scholars rely on these narratives alongside material evidence. This coexistence of memory and stone challenges the assumption that tangible artifacts alone define history.
In an age dominated by digital records and mass data, Nan Madol reminds humanity of the power of narrative, emotion, and collective remembrance as tools for sustaining knowledge and cultural identity. Seventh, Nan Madol encourages humility in the face of human achievement. Despite centuries of research, modern science still cannot fully explain how the stones were transported, lifted, and precisely arranged. The ingenuity required, the coordination, and the understanding of environmental forces demonstrate capabilities that surpass contemporary expectations. This humility is vital. Humanity's assumptions about technological superiority, especially in small-scale societies, are often misleading. Nan Madol forces recognition of intelligence and creativity in forms that differ from modern templates. Eighth, the city offers perspective on permanence. Modern societies often equate durability with success, yet Nan Madol shows that significance does not require eternal physical preservation. The stones may erode, channels may fill, and walls may collapse, but the lessons, memory, and symbolic resonance endure. True impact lies not in physical survival alone, but in continued relevance. In this, Nan Madol challenges the contemporary obsession with legacy measured by permanence, encouraging focus on meaning and influence instead. Ninth, the city demonstrates the universality of human aspiration. Across continents and millennia, humans have sought to construct monuments, cities, and cultural symbols that extend beyond individual lifespans. Nan Madol is part of this global story, linking the Pacific Islands to a broader tapestry of human creativity. Its remote location does not diminish its significance, rather it enhances it. Creativity, organization, and vision are not bound by geography. They emerge wherever humans engage with the world, collectively, purposefully, and imaginatively. Tenth, and perhaps most poignantly, Nan Madol inspires reflection about the human condition itself. Its canals, walls, and islets evoke a world where humanity, belief, and nature coexisted in a delicate balance. Its abandonment evokes impermanence, the limits of control, and the inevitability of change. Its survival into the modern era evokes wonder, admiration, and humility. In every stone lies a question. What does it mean to build, to govern, to believe, and to endure? Nan Madol's lessons are timeless because they are questions, not prescriptions. As the 21st century advances, Nan Madol's relevance grows. Climate change threatens many coastal and island civilizations. Rapid technological and social transformation challenges shared meaning. Cultural heritage faces erosion from neglect and commodification. In this context, Nan Madol is both warning and guide. It teaches that civilizations are sustainable when balanced, integrated with environment, guided by values, and remembered carefully. Conversely, it shows the fragility that arises when these elements are neglected. Nan Madol also bridges the gap between local and global perspectives. For the people of Pompeii, it remains a living part of culture, a sacred landscape, and a moral reference. For the world, it is an icon of ingenuity, mystery, and alternative pathways of human development. The convergence of local respect and global recognition highlights the potential for collaboration, learning, and cultural humility in approaching heritage. Nan Madol exists simultaneously as a local treasure and global lesson. Finally, Nan Madol invites imagination. Its partially submerged islets, winding canals, and towering basalt walls suggest a city that defies linear understanding. It challenges scholars, captivates travelers, and inspires creators. Its ambiguity allows for endless interpretation, ensuring that it remains alive in human thought. In a world often dominated by certainty, it reminds us of the value of curiosity, of questions without final answers, and of the imagination that bridges past, present, and future.
In conclusion, Nan Madol is more than a lost city of stone. It is a living repository of human ambition, belief, intelligence, and creativity. It is a reflection of balance and imbalance, permanence and impermanence, power and responsibility. Its lessons traverse disciplines, continents, and centuries. From the Pohnpeian oral traditions to modern archaeological methods, from spiritual narratives to ecological insight, Nan Madol continues to teach, provoke, and inspire. If humanity can learn from its stones, waters, and silence, then Nan Madol will endure far beyond the decay of its walls. Its greatest gift is not its physical presence, but the ideas, reflections, and even centuries after its construction and subsequent abandonment, Nan Madol continues to speak, not in words, but through echoes. These echoes travel across time, space, and imagination, carrying lessons that remain relevant to modern societies. Part 11 explores how the remnants of this city interact with contemporary thought, inspiring reflection, creativity, and a renewed understanding of human possibility. One of the most compelling aspects of Nan Madol is its ability to connect the past to the present. Unlike many ancient ruins, it does not simply illustrate history, it interacts with it. Scholars studying the city discover insights into societal organization, environmental adaptation, and architectural ingenuity. Their findings, in turn, influence how contemporary communities understand resilience, sustainability, and cooperation. Nan Madol becomes a bridge, linking human endeavor across generations. The city also resonates with questions of identity. For Pohnpeians, Nan Madol is not merely a monument, it is a symbol of ancestral wisdom, collective memory, and cultural pride. Its stones serve as reminders that their forebears were builders, planners, and thinkers capable of extraordinary achievements. This recognition strengthens cultural continuity, reinforcing a sense of belonging and heritage even in the modern, globalized world. Beyond local identity, Nan Madol challenges global assumptions about civilization. Its construction demonstrates that monumental architecture and complex political organization are not exclusive to continental societies or literate cultures. The city's existence expands the definition of achievement, encouraging a more inclusive understanding of human ingenuity. It exemplifies how small, remote communities can create enduring legacies, challenging the assumption that size or scale defines significance. The ecological wisdom embedded in Nan Madol also resonates today. The builders designed a city that harmonized with the tidal flows, coral reefs, and natural features of the lagoon. They did not attempt to conquer the environment. Instead, they integrated human activity with natural rhythms. Modern societies facing climate change, rising seas, and ecological degradation can learn from this approach. Nan Madol exemplifies how understanding and respecting environmental systems can produce sustainable, long-lasting structures and societies. Equally instructive is Nan Madol's social organization. The Saudeleur system centralized power, yet relied heavily on labor, cooperation, and ritual. The success of the city depended on aligning authority with shared belief. When imbalance crept in, when rulers became distant, exploitative, or disconnected from spiritual and social obligations, the city's power structure weakened. This dynamic offers a timeless lesson that human systems, no matter how impressive physically, rely fundamentally on trust, legitimacy, and cohesion. Nan Madol's mysterious construction techniques continue to spark debate. Massive basalt stones, some weighing several tons, were transported from quarries miles away and positioned with remarkable precision. Researchers still question exactly how such feats were accomplished. These unanswered questions fuel imagination,
pushing engineers, architects, and historians to consider alternative methods and collaborative strategies that do not depend solely on modern machinery. In this way, Nan Madol becomes a source of inspiration for both technical ingenuity and creative problem-solving. The city's spiritual dimension provides another enduring echo. Nan Madol was not simply a political capital, it was a sacred space where authority, ritual, and cosmology intersected. Its planners understood that the legitimacy of governance was intertwined with belief and symbolism. For modern societies navigating questions of leadership, ethics, and collective purpose, Nan Madol offers a reminder that power divorced from moral and cultural frameworks is unstable. Its history illustrates the consequences of neglecting these invisible but essential forces. Nan Madol also inspires artistic and narrative imagination. Writers, filmmakers, and visual artists are drawn to the city's labyrinthine canals, mysterious ruins, and semi-submerged islets. Its ambiguity allows creative freedom, enabling stories that blend history, myth, and speculation. These artistic interpretations amplify the city's impact, extending its influence far beyond the Pacific and into global consciousness. Each creative rendering is a new echo, a reinterpretation of the past that informs contemporary cultural expression. Education benefits significantly from Nan Madol's multifaceted lessons. Its story can be integrated into curricula that combine archaeology, environmental science, social studies, and ethics. Students exploring the city learn not only about architecture or history, but also about human behavior, societal resilience, and the importance of balance between people and their environment. Nan Madol transforms abstract lessons into tangible, visual, and memorable examples. The city's continued existence also speaks to resilience in the face of change. While rising seas, storms, and vegetation growth threaten its physical form, the city endures through memory, documentation, and cultural reverence. Its survival illustrates that resilience is not solely a structural phenomenon, but also a cultural and symbolic one. Communities can maintain continuity and meaning even when the material world is impermanent. Nan Madol's lessons extend into global discussions about heritage preservation. Too often, historical sites are preserved in isolation from their living cultural context, treated as objects rather than dynamic elements of society. In contrast, Nan Madol demonstrates that heritage can be alive, relevant, and integrated into community life. Effective preservation requires not only technical intervention, but also respect for local knowledge, spiritual significance, and the values embedded in memory. In addition to practical lessons, Nan Madol challenges perceptions of temporality. Civilizations are frequently judged by the longevity of their physical structures, yet the city shows that significance is not determined by permanence alone. Even partially submerged, partially eroded, and partially abandoned, Nan Madol continues to impact society, thought, and imagination. Its endurance is measured not in stone, but in relevance. The echoes of Nan Madol also include cautionary lessons. Its collapse underlines the dangers of concentration of power, exploitation, and disconnection from the governed. Modern societies facing centralized authority, environmental degradation, and social inequality can reflect on the city's history. Nan Madol reminds humanity that structural and societal brilliance does not guarantee sustainability without ethical governance and community engagement. Moreover, the city's story encourages humility. Despite advanced technology, satellite imagery, and modern archaeology, researchers continue to grapple with questions about construction methods, social organization, and ritual practice. Nan Madol demonstrates that human ingenuity has always been diverse, adaptive, and sometimes beyond immediate comprehension. Acknowledging this complexity fosters respect for both past societies and contemporary cultural diversity. Nan Madol's influence extends into the philosophical realm as well. The city embodies the tension between permanence and impermanence, visibility and mystery, action and reflection. Its partially submerged walls, overgrown corridors, and silent canals create a space for contemplation. Visitors often describe feelings of awe, humility, and introspection, emotions that transcend historical knowledge and connect human experience across time. The city's integration of human, environmental, and spiritual systems offers a template for contemporary societal design. It illustrates that sustainable human settlement is not merely a function of engineering, but also of cultural, ethical, and ecological harmony. In facing 21st century challenges, urbanization, climate change, and social fragmentation, Nan Madol provides a model of holistic thinking. Finally, Nan Madol encourages ongoing dialogue. Its mysteries, lessons, and inspirations are not static. Each generation interprets the city anew, reflecting contemporary concerns and values. In this way, Nan Madol remains alive in a meaningful sense. It is a conversation across time, a site of learning, and a source of imaginative expansion. Through its stones, canals, and stories, Nan Madol continues to shape human thought. It reminds humanity that the past is not merely a record.
Nan Madol, though centuries old, continues to resonate because it reflects enduring human themes. In Part 12, the focus shifts to how the city functions as a mirror for contemporary society, revealing insights about governance, sustainability, culture, and human ambition. Its legacy is not simply historical, it is a living lens through which modern humanity can examine itself. At the core of Nan Madol's lesson is the idea of balance. The Saudalur dynasty constructed a city that centralized authority while relying heavily on ritual, social cohesion, and labor coordination. For centuries, this balance allowed the city to flourish, yet the eventual decline demonstrates how fragile such equilibrium can be. When governance becomes disconnected from the governed, when rituals lose meaning, and when power serves a few at the expense of the many, collapse becomes inevitable. Modern societies can learn from this. True stability depends not on coercion or technology alone, but on legitimacy, trust, and ethical leadership. Nan Madol also offers lessons in resource management. The city's builders utilized basalt from distant quarries and coral from the surrounding reefs, carefully integrating these materials into the lagoon's natural systems. Unlike contemporary societies that often exploit resources indiscriminately, Nan Madol demonstrates a model of measured utilization and environmental integration. Even as parts of the city succumb to rising seas and storms, the approach reflects a thoughtful balance between human activity and ecological sustainability. Another lesson lies in the understanding of scale. Many modern definitions of achievement equate size with significance. Nan Madol challenges this notion. Built on a small island, it exhibits complexity, organization, and innovation that rival much larger civilizations. The city proves that creativity, coordination, and vision can emerge in any context. It encourages contemporary societies to recognize potential in smaller, often marginalized communities, and to value ingenuity beyond population or wealth metrics. The city also underscores the role of belief and shared vision in shaping societies. Its construction was not a purely technical endeavor. It was driven by a cosmology that intertwined rulers, ancestors, and spirits. This shared worldview mobilized labor and guided societal organization. In today's world, where technological systems dominate governance and communal belief often seems fractured, Nan Madol illustrates the power of shared values and collective purpose. Societies that lack ethical, cultural, or spiritual cohesion risk instability, even with advanced resources. Nan Madol's urban design provides lessons in adaptability. The city was constructed on artificial islets, connected by canals and aligned with tidal patterns. Its spatial planning reflects a deep understanding of environmental forces and human needs. Modern urban planners can study these strategies to create resilient cities that work with natural forces rather than against them. Rising sea levels and urban flooding make such lessons increasingly relevant, highlighting the wisdom embedded in indigenous architectural practices. The city also teaches humility in human ambition. Despite centuries of study, questions about Nan Madol's construction methods, labor organization, and precise purpose remain. Even with modern tools, satellite imaging, LiDAR, and advanced engineering, experts cannot fully reconstruct how the city functioned. This uncertainty encourages recognition of the limits of human understanding and the need for respectful curiosity when engaging with historical societies. It reminds modern civilization that ingenuity manifests in diverse forms, not all of which align with contemporary expectations. Nan Madol's cultural resilience is another critical lesson. Though abandoned physically, the city has endured through oral traditions, storytelling, and scholarly research. Its meaning has adapted over time, from sacred capital to archaeological site to a global symbol of ingenuity. Modern societies facing rapid technological and cultural change can draw inspiration from this resilience. Relevance is not solely determined by material preservation, but also by memory, interpretation, and continued cultural engagement. The spiritual dimensions of Nan Madol remain instructive. Authority, morality, and belief were deeply interconnected, creating a governance system that relied as much on respect and ritual as on physical control. The city's collapse illustrates the consequences of neglecting ethical and spiritual dimensions. Contemporary societies, often focused on metrics, efficiency, and technological governance, might find in Nan Madol a cautionary tale. Sustainable power requires moral and cultural legitimacy, not just material capability. Nan Madol also inspires creative imagination. Its partially submerged walls, overgrown islets, and labyrinthine canals evoke a sense of mystery and wonder. Artists, writers, and filmmakers draw upon this imagery to explore themes of civilization, nature, and human aspiration. The city's enduring visual and conceptual impact demonstrates that the influence of a civilization extends beyond its physical artifacts. It lives in the ideas it sparks. From a psychological perspective, Nan Madol embodies the human tension between control and impermanence. The city was a feat of human will, yet it exists now in partial decay, subject to tides and time. This duality mirrors modern life. No matter how advanced or powerful, human systems are always influenced by forces beyond control. Recognition of this reality fosters humility, adaptability, and long-term thinking. Education benefits greatly from the lessons of Nan Madol. Its interdisciplinary relevance, touching history, archaeology, anthropology, environmental science, engineering, and ethics, makes it an ideal case study. Students can explore complex systems, understand the integration of human, environmental, and spiritual dimensions, and reflect on ethical leadership. The city serves as a bridge between abstract concepts and tangible examples of human ingenuity. Nan Madol also highlights the universality of human aspiration. Across the globe, humans have sought to create enduring places that reflect their beliefs, organize society, and achieve purpose. Though remote and small, Nan Madol participates in this universal story.
It reminds humanity that creativity and ambition are not confined to specific regions or cultures. They are inherent aspects of human nature, expressed differently according to context and environment. The city also provides lessons in the temporality of achievement. Its walls, canals, and islets may eventually succumb to the sea, yet the lessons, cultural significance, and imagination it inspires endure. In an era where legacy is often measured by permanence or visibility, Nan Madol emphasizes that influence and meaning can persist without the continued survival of physical structures. Furthermore, Nan Madol demonstrates the value of collaboration. Its construction required thousands of people working together over centuries. Coordination, planning, and shared vision made it possible. Modern societies facing global challenges, climate change, pandemics, and social inequality can draw inspiration from such large-scale collaboration, recognizing that human ingenuity flourishes when collective action is aligned with purpose. The city's ecological wisdom remains relevant. In integrating construction with natural rhythms and tidal flows, the builders minimized environmental disruption while creating monumental structures. This approach contrasts sharply with modern patterns of overexploitation and ecological imbalance. Nan Madol encourages modern societies to design in harmony with nature rather than attempting total control. Finally, Nan Madol reflects the enduring human desire for meaning. It is not merely a physical accomplishment, but a manifestation of purpose, belief, and cultural identity. Its survival through centuries, despite environmental and social change, testifies to the power of meaning as a force more enduring than stone. For humanity today, this insight resonates. Societies endure not just through infrastructure or wealth, but through values, narrative, and collective purpose. Nan Madol, in its enduring presence, teaches modern humanity to balance ambition with ethics, creativity with humility, and action with reflection. It serves as a mirror, showing both the possibilities and limitations of human societies. Its stones, canals, and stories remind us that history is not only to be studied, but also to be internalized as guidance, inspiration, and caution. In contemplating Nan Madol, humanity glimpses a vision of what it can achieve, how it can govern wisely, and how it can harmonize with the world. Through the
Nan Madol, long secluded in the Pacific waters of Pohnpei, has transcended its physical boundaries to become a symbol in global imagination. Part 13 explores how myths, media, and modern cultural memory have amplified the city's influence, turning it from a historical site into a shared human narrative that bridges geography, time, and discipline. Its stones, canals, and partially submerged islets have inspired stories, theories, and artistic interpretations far beyond the small islands where it was built. From the earliest European accounts to contemporary documentaries, Nan Madol has elicited fascination mixed with speculation. Early explorers, confronted with the city's vast stone walls and intricate canal network, often interpreted its origins through the lens of their own myths and prejudices. Some dismissed it as the work of supernatural beings or lost civilizations, unable to conceive that local communities, with their knowledge, belief, and coordination, could produce such a monumental achievement. These early misinterpretations reflect a common pattern in human history: the tendency to underestimate the capabilities of distant cultures. As knowledge expanded through archaeology and anthropology, Nan Madol's true origins began to emerge. Yet even scientific study could not fully unravel its mysteries. Questions about construction methods, labor organization, and societal hierarchy remain open, leaving room for imagination. The city's unresolved puzzles have fueled alternative theories, speculative fiction, and artistic interpretations, ensuring that Nan Madol occupies both the realm of fact and the realm of myth. In literature, Nan Madol has become a setting and symbol for human ambition, mystery, and the interface between nature and culture. Writers often depict it as a place where reality and legend merge, evoking themes of lost knowledge, impermanence, and the awe-inspiring power of human imagination. Its partially submerged structures and labyrinthine canals create imagery of enigmatic cities slowly reclaimed by the ocean, spaces where history, myth, and environmental forces converge. Film and visual media have expanded Nan Madol's reach even further. Documentaries, drone footage, and cinematic reconstructions showcase its scale and beauty, transporting global audiences into a landscape few will ever physically visit. These representations emphasize both technical achievement and aesthetic wonder, highlighting the city's ingenuity while maintaining a sense of mystery. The visual medium has allowed Nan Madol to enter the collective consciousness, transforming it into a symbol for the interplay of human creativity and natural forces. The city has also become central to discussions of cultural heritage and indigenous knowledge. Pohnpeians have preserved oral traditions, myths, and ceremonial practices that contextualize Nan Madol's significance. These narratives inform both local identity and academic understanding, illustrating the interplay between tangible ruins and intangible cultural memory. This duality challenges the notion that history is solely recorded in stone or written documents. Nan Madol demonstrates that cultural memory, transmitted orally and ritually, can preserve knowledge for centuries, maintaining relevance long after physical structures fade. Nan Madol's mythic status has also inspired global comparative studies. Scholars and enthusiasts link it to other ancient sites, Stonehenge, Angkor Wat, and the Egyptian pyramids, exploring similarities in monumental construction, labor organization, and ritual significance. Yet Nan Madol is unique in its ecological integration. Unlike landlocked monuments, it was built within a lagoon, combining stone, water, and environment in ways that demonstrate sophisticated spatial understanding and environmental intelligence. This feature distinguishes it in global imagination, emphasizing adaptation and harmony over sheer scale or conquest. Popular media often amplifies the mystery surrounding Nan Madol. Claims of lost civilizations, extraterrestrial assistance, and supernatural involvement have circulated for decades. While academically unsubstantiated, these narratives reveal a human tendency to mythologize what is not fully understood. They also reflect our enduring fascination with places that challenge conventional understanding. Nan Madol thrives in this context, existing simultaneously as archaeological site, cultural symbol, and imaginative canvas. The city's presence in modern digital spaces further extends its influence. Satellite imagery, virtual tours, and interactive reconstructions showcase its scale and beauty, transporting global audiences into a landscape few will ever physically visit. These representations emphasize both technical achievement and aesthetic wonder, highlighting the city's ingenuity while maintaining a sense of mystery. The visual medium has allowed Nan Madol to enter the collective consciousness, transforming it into a symbol for the interplay of human creativity and natural forces. The city has also become central to discussions of cultural heritage and indigenous knowledge. Pohnpeians have preserved oral traditions, myths, and ceremonial practices that contextualize Nan Madol's significance. These narratives inform both local identity and academic understanding, illustrating the interplay between tangible ruins and intangible cultural memory. This duality challenges the notion that history is solely recorded in stone or written documents. Nan Madol demonstrates that cultural memory, transmitted orally and ritually, can preserve knowledge for centuries, maintaining relevance long after physical structures fade. Nan Madol's mythic status has also inspired global comparative studies. Scholars and enthusiasts link it to other ancient sites, Stonehenge, Angkor Wat, and the Egyptian pyramids, exploring similarities in monumental construction, labor organization, and ritual significance. Yet Nan Madol is unique in its ecological integration. Unlike landlocked monuments, it was built within a lagoon,
combining stone, water, and environment in ways that demonstrate sophisticated spatial understanding and environmental intelligence. This feature distinguishes it in global imagination, emphasizing adaptation and harmony over sheer scale or conquest. Popular media often amplifies the mystery surrounding Nan Madol. Claims of lost civilizations, extraterrestrial assistance, and supernatural involvement have circulated for decades. While academically unsubstantiated, these narratives reveal a human tendency to mythologize what is not fully understood. They also reflect our enduring fascination with places that challenge conventional understanding. Nan Madol thrives in this context, existing simultaneously as archaeological site, cultural symbol, and imaginative canvas. The city's presence in modern digital spaces further extends its influence. Satellite imagery, virtual tours, and interactive reconstructions showcase its scale and beauty, transporting global audiences into a landscape few will ever physically visit. These representations emphasize both technical achievement and aesthetic wonder, highlighting the city's ingenuity while maintaining a sense of mystery. The visual medium has allowed Nan Madol to enter the collective consciousness, transforming it into a symbol for the interplay of human creativity and natural forces. The city has also become central to discussions of cultural heritage and indigenous knowledge. Pohnpeians have preserved oral traditions, myths, and ceremonial practices that contextualize Nan Madol's significance. These narratives inform both local identity and academic understanding, illustrating the interplay between tangible ruins and intangible cultural memory. This duality challenges the notion that history is solely recorded in stone or written documents. Nan Madol demonstrates that cultural memory, transmitted orally and ritually, can preserve knowledge for centuries, maintaining relevance long after physical structures fade. Nan Madol's mythic status has also inspired global comparative studies. Scholars and enthusiasts link it to other ancient sites, Stonehenge, Angkor Wat, and the Egyptian pyramids, exploring similarities in monumental construction, labor organization, and ritual significance. Yet Nan Madol is unique in its ecological integration. Unlike landlocked monuments, it was built within a lagoon, combining stone, water, and environment in ways that demonstrate sophisticated spatial understanding and environmental intelligence. This feature distinguishes it in global imagination, emphasizing adaptation and harmony over sheer scale or conquest. Popular media often amplifies the mystery surrounding Nan Madol. Claims of lost civilizations, extraterrestrial assistance, and supernatural involvement have circulated for decades. While academically unsubstantiated, these narratives reveal a human tendency to mythologize what is not fully understood. They also reflect our enduring fascination with places that challenge conventional understanding. Nan Madol thrives in this context, existing simultaneously as archaeological site, cultural symbol, and imaginative canvas. The city's presence in modern digital spaces further extends its influence. Satellite imagery, virtual tours, and interactive reconstructions showcase its scale and beauty, transporting global audiences into a landscape few will ever physically visit. These representations emphasize
Nan Madol is more than a city. It is a philosophical lens through which humanity can explore its own existence. Part 14 examines the deeper reflections the city evokes on civilization, mortality, purpose, and the meaning humans attach to their endeavors. Its partially submerged basalt walls, intricate canals, and enigmatic construction offer both literal and metaphorical foundations for contemplation, revealing timeless insights into human life. The city begins as a reflection of human ambition. Constructing a network of artificial islets connected by canals required extraordinary vision, coordination, and labor. For centuries, the city served as the capital of the Saudeleur dynasty, showcasing centralized power, spiritual authority, and cultural sophistication. Yet ambition alone was insufficient to sustain it.
The eventual abandonment of Nan Madol demonstrates a profound truth. Civilizations, no matter how grand, are subject to the forces of belief, social cohesion, and natural balance. Ambition must be guided by purpose and sustained by collective understanding, or it risks decay. Nan Madol also confronts humans with mortality, not only of individuals, but of societal structures. The city's partially ruined state is a vivid reminder that all things, political systems, cultural institutions, and even monumental architecture, are temporary. The slow erosion of stone by tides, vegetation, and time mirrors the impermanence inherent in life itself. Observers cannot help but reflect on the transient nature of human endeavors. Mortality is inevitable, yet meaning is created in how societies organize, act, and remember. The philosophical reflections extend to purpose. Nan Madol was not constructed merely for comfort or economic gain. It was built as a sacred and political center, intertwining the spiritual and the material. Its planners sought to create a tangible expression of human belief, authority, and cosmology. Modern societies often measure success in material accumulation, power, or technological advancement. Nan Madol suggests that enduring value may arise not from what is amassed, but from what is meaningful, how humans integrate purpose, belief, and action into a coherent vision. The city also challenges assumptions about permanence and legacy. Physical structures inevitably degrade, but ideas, stories, and cultural significance persist. Nan Madol's legacy is not measured by intact walls alone, but by its ability to inspire inquiry, reflection, and imagination across generations. In this sense, the city teaches that mortality does not negate influence. Thoughtful creation can transcend the limitations of time and material decay. Human agency and responsibility are central to Nan Madol's philosophical message. The Saudalar rulers wielded immense power, yet their authority depended on ethical governance, ritual observance, and social balance. When these elements faltered, the system collapsed. Modern societies can learn from this. Power is not inherently enduring, and leadership divorced from morality, culture, and communal engagement is precarious. Nan Madol is a meditation on the ethical dimensions of human organization. The city's relationship with nature evokes reflection on environmental philosophy. Nan Madol was integrated into the lagoon ecosystem, built on coral reefs and aligned with tidal patterns. Its design illustrates respect, observation, and adaptation rather than domination. Philosophically, this embodies a worldview that acknowledges humanity's dependence on ecological systems. Modern societies facing environmental crises can find lessons in this integration, recognizing that sustainability arises from harmony rather than control. Nan Madol also prompts contemplation of mystery and knowledge. Despite centuries of research, questions about its construction, labor management, and societal hierarchy remain. This uncertainty is not a limitation, but an invitation for humility. The city encourages reflection on the limits of human understanding, reminding us that not all knowledge is accessible, and that wonder is an essential aspect of philosophical inquiry. Mystery in this context becomes a tool for introspection, curiosity, and reverence. The city further invites reflection on collective memory. Its survival relies as much on stories, oral traditions, and cultural preservation as on physical stones. The Pohnpeian community maintains a living memory of the city, ensuring that it continues to inform identity, ethics, and worldview. Nan Madol illustrates that civilization is preserved not solely in architecture or artifacts, but in shared narratives and cultural consciousness. Memory, philosophy, and identity are intertwined. Time itself becomes a subject of meditation when considering Nan Madol.
The conjugation of ancient construction with natural change, the tide, weathering, and plant overgrowth, creates a temporal dialogue. Observers confront multiple scales simultaneously: the fleeting span of human life, the centuries of the city's construction and use, and the millennia of geological and environmental processes. This interplay encourages philosophical reflection on temporal perspective, patience, and human humility. Nan Madol also exemplifies the integration of art, science, and spirituality. Its planners combined technical skill with symbolic meaning, ritual function, and aesthetic sensibility. Philosophy, in this sense, is not abstract. It is embedded in tangible practice. Civilization is measured not merely by structural accomplishment, but by the coherence between utility, symbolism, and cultural understanding. Nan Madol demonstrates that human thought and action can be inseparable, offering a holistic vision of purpose and achievement. The city's ambiguity contributes to its philosophical resonance. It is neither fully explained nor fully mystical, creating space for interpretation. Observers can project questions about morality, leadership, impermanence, and environmental ethics onto its ruins. In doing so, the city serves as a mirror, reflecting societal values, human concerns, and existential inquiries. This reflective quality is central to its enduring influence. Nan Madol also embodies the tension between individual action and collective effort. Its construction required coordinated labor, shared vision, and multi-generational dedication. Yet its collapse illustrates the consequences when collective responsibility falters or leadership loses legitimacy. Philosophically, this tension mirrors human social existence. Achievement depends on cooperation, and ethical failure can unravel even the most sophisticated structures. The city encourages reflection on the nature of human imagination. Its combination of engineering, environmental adaptation, and ritual symbolism demonstrates that creativity is not merely aesthetic, but integrative. Philosophy, in this sense, is not abstract, it is embedded in tangible practice. Civilization is measured not merely by structural accomplishment, but by the coherence between utility, symbolism, and cultural understanding. Nan Madol demonstrates that human thought and action can be inseparable, offering a holistic vision of purpose and achievement. Finally, Nan Madol challenges modern perceptions of success and achievement. Its significance lies not in global conquest, material accumulation, or technological dominance, but in its capacity to inspire reflection, memory, and imagination. In essence, the city is a philosophical prompt, inviting consideration of what is truly valuable and enduring. In conclusion, Nan Madol is more than a city of stone. It is a meditation on human existence. It reflects ambition, mortality, ethical responsibility, ecological integration, collective effort, and imagination. Its partially submerged ruins, canals, and stories provide a space for reflection, encouraging contemplation of civilization, purpose, and the transient nature of life. By engaging with Nan Madol, humanity participates in a timeless philosophical inquiry, connecting past, present, and future in a dialogue about meaning, resilience, and human potential. Through this reflection, the city remains alive, not merely as a physical structure, but as a source of insight, contemplation, and inspiration. Nan Madol continues to challenge assumptions, provoke thought, and guide humanity in understanding both the limits and possibilities of civilization. Its stones echo with questions as enduring as time itself. What does it mean to build, to govern, to remember, to create? And ultimately, how can human societies act with wisdom, balance, and purpose in a world defined by both beauty and impermanence?
Nan Madol stands today not merely as an ancient ruin, but as a living legacy that extends far beyond its basalt walls and tidal canals.
Part 15 explores how the city's story reaches into the future of human civilization, offering guidance, warnings, and inspiration for societies yet to come. As humanity faces unprecedented challenges, environmental, social, and technological, Nan Madol emerges as a quiet but powerful teacher. One of the most important lessons Nan Madol offers for the future is the idea that civilization is not defined solely by technology. The builders of Nan Madol had no metal tools, written language, or machines as modern societies understand them. Yet they constructed one of the most complex urban landscapes in the ancient world. This challenges the modern belief that progress is linear and technological driven. Instead, Nan Madol suggests that cooperation, shared belief, environmental knowledge, and long-term vision are equally vital foundations of civilization. The city also encourages future societies to rethink their relationship with nature. Nan Madol was built in harmony with its lagoon environment, using tides, coral reefs, and water channels as integral components of urban design. Rather than forcing nature into submission, its builders adapted to natural rhythms. As climate change reshapes coastlines and ecosystems worldwide, this philosophy becomes increasingly relevant. The future of human civilization may depend less on domination of nature and more on intelligent adaptation, an approach Nan Madol exemplifies. The city's decline further offers a cautionary lesson. The Saudilar dynasty eventually lost legitimacy due to excessive control, social inequality, and disconnection from the people it governed. This reminds future societies that centralized power, when unchecked by ethics and accountability, can undermine even the most impressive systems. Sustainable civilizations require fairness, participation, and moral responsibility, not merely authority or infrastructure. Another forward-looking lesson lies in the concept of resilience. Nan Madol has endured centuries of storms, rising seas, and vegetation growth. Though partially submerged and eroded, it still stands. Its resilience is not based on constant repair or reinforcement, but on thoughtful design, durable materials, and cultural respect. Future civilizations facing uncertainty and rapid change can learn that resilience often comes from simplicity, adaptability, and respect for natural processes, rather than from constant expansion or control. Nan Madol also highlights the importance of cultural memory in shaping the future. The city survives not only because of stone, but because of stories, rituals, and community remembrance. Oral traditions preserved its meaning long after its political function ended. In a digital age where information is abundant but often fleeting, Nan Madol reminds humanity that memory is strongest when embedded in culture, identity, and shared values. Future societies may need to balance technological record-keeping with meaningful cultural transmission. Education is another domain where Nan Madol's legacy extends forward. Its story encourages interdisciplinary thinking, combining history, engineering, ecology, ethics, and philosophy. Teaching future generations about Nan Madol fosters critical thinking and cultural humility, helping students understand that knowledge takes many forms. Such education prepares societies to approach global challenges with creativity, respect, and adaptability, rather than rigid assumptions. Nan Madol also reshapes how future civilizations might define success. Modern societies often equate success with economic growth, territorial expansion, or technological dominance. Nan Madol suggests alternative measures: harmony with environment, social cohesion, ethical leadership, and cultural meaning. Its significance lies not in conquest or wealth, but in its ability to inspire reflection and wonder centuries later. This reframing may be essential for building sustainable futures. The city's enduring mystery plays a crucial role in its future relevance.
Unanswered questions about construction techniques and social organization keep Nan Madol alive in scholarly debate and popular imagination. Rather than viewing uncertainty as a weakness, future civilizations can embrace it as a source of curiosity and innovation. Mystery encourages humility and exploration, qualities essential for scientific and cultural advancement. Nan Madol's global recognition also points toward a more inclusive future history. For centuries, global narratives focused primarily on large empires and continental civilizations. Nan Madol challenges this bias, proving that island societies and indigenous cultures have made contributions of equal significance. Future historical understanding must be more inclusive, recognizing diverse paths of human development. This inclusivity fosters respect, cooperation, and shared global identity. The city further offers insight into long-term thinking. Nan Madol was constructed over generations with no expectation of immediate reward. Its builders invested in a future they would not fully see. In contrast, modern societies often prioritize short-term gains. As humanity confronts long-term challenges like climate change and resource depletion, Nan Madol's example of generational responsibility becomes increasingly relevant. Sustainable futures require patience, foresight, and commitment beyond individual lifespans. Nan Madol also speaks to the future of spirituality and meaning. While modern societies grow increasingly secular or fragmented in belief, the city demonstrates how shared cosmology once unified governance, architecture, and daily life. This does not suggest a return to ancient belief systems, but rather a recognition that societies function best when anchored in shared ethical frameworks and purpose. Future civilizations may need new forms of collective meaning to maintain cohesion and moral direction. The city's presence in modern media and digital platforms ensures its continued influence. Virtual reconstructions, documentaries, and global discussions allow Nan Madol to inspire people worldwide. This digital afterlife extends its legacy beyond physical preservation, ensuring that even if environmental forces eventually reclaim the site, its ideas and lessons will endure. In this way, Nan Madol transitions from a physical city to a conceptual guide for humanity. Nan Madol also encourages future societies to respect limits. Its builders understood environmental boundaries and worked within them. Modern civilization, often driven by limitless growth, faces consequences of ignoring such limits. Nan Madol's story suggests that acknowledging boundaries, ecological, social, and ethical, is not a weakness, but a strength. Sustainable futures depend on recognizing when restraint is wiser than expansion. The city's quiet endurance offers a final, profound lesson. Nan Madol does not dominate global narratives through power or spectacle. It influences through presence, mystery, and meaning. Future civilizations may find that the most lasting legacies are not the loudest or largest, but those that provoke thought, inspire humility, and encourage balance. In reflecting on Nan Madol's legacy, it becomes clear that its greatest contribution lies ahead, not behind. As humanity navigates uncertainty, the city offers a mirror and a guide. It reflects human potential for cooperation, creativity, and meaning, while guiding future societies toward balance, humility, and long-term vision. Nan Madol teaches civilizations that they are remembered not solely for what they built, but for how they lived, governed, and related to the world around them. Its stones remind humanity that progress without ethics is fragile, power without legitimacy is temporary, and achievement without meaning fades quickly. Ultimately, Nan Madol's legacy beyond stone is a legacy of wisdom. It invites future civilizations to ask essential questions. How should societies balance ambition with responsibility? How can humans live in harmony with nature? What values should guide leadership and collective action?
By engaging with these questions, humanity ensures that Nan Madol remains not just a relic of the past, but a beacon for the future. As long as humans continue to build, imagine, and seek meaning, Nan Madol's influence will endure. Its canals may fill, its walls may erode, but its lessons will flow forward, shaping how civilizations think about progress, resilience, and what it truly means to endure.
Nan Madol has survived not because it was frozen in time, but because it was remembered. Part 16 turns attention to the responsibility humanity carries towards such places, how preservation, ethics, and stewardship shape the future of cultural heritage. Nan Madol challenges modern society to reconsider what it means to protect the past while respecting the present and preparing for the future. Preservation is often imagined as a technical task, stabilizing walls, documenting structures, and preventing decay. Yet Nan Madol reveals that preservation is far more complex. The city exists within a living cultural landscape shaped by tides, vegetation, and the beliefs of local communities. Any attempt to preserve it must therefore balance scientific intervention with cultural sensitivity. Preservation in this context is not about control, but about care. One of the central ethical questions surrounding Nan Madol is ownership. Who owns the past? Is it the local community whose ancestors built and revered the site? Is it the nation-state responsible for governance? Or is it humanity as a whole, drawn to the site for its universal significance? Nan Madol illustrates that heritage cannot be reduced to legal boundaries alone. True stewardship requires dialogue, respect, and shared responsibility. For the people of Pohnpei, Nan Madol is not merely an archaeological site, it is a sacred space woven into cultural identity and oral tradition. Certain areas are approached with reverence, and stories associated with the city continue to inform moral and social values. Ethical preservation must honor this living relationship. When heritage is treated only as an object of study or tourism, it risks losing its deeper meaning. Tourism presents both opportunity and challenge. Increased global interest in Nan Madol brings awareness, funding, and educational value. At the same time, uncontrolled visitation threatens physical damage, environmental stress, and cultural disruption. The ethical question becomes how to share heritage without exploiting it. Nan Madol encourages models of sustainable tourism that prioritize education, respect, and community involvement over profit and spectacle. Environmental change further complicates preservation. Rising sea levels, stronger storms, and shifting ecosystems pose serious threats to Nan Madol's physical structures. Unlike inland monuments, the city was always vulnerable to water. Its builders understood this impermanence, designing the city to coexist with tides rather than resist them. Modern preservation efforts must therefore confront a difficult truth: not all loss can be prevented. This reality raises a profound ethical dilemma. Should humanity attempt to preserve Nan Madol exactly as it is, or accept transformation as part of its life cycle? Some argue that intervention is necessary to protect irreplaceable heritage. Others suggest that allowing natural processes to continue respects the city's original relationship with the environment. Nan Madol does not offer a simple answer, but it encourages humility in decision-making. Documentation becomes an essential form of preservation. Archaeological surveys, digital mapping, oral history recordings, and virtual reconstructions ensure that knowledge of Nan Madol survives even if physical structures deteriorate. In this sense, preservation shifts from maintaining matter to maintaining memory. The city teaches that safeguarding meaning can be as important as safeguarding stone. Ethical stewardship also requires confronting historical injustice.
Early interpretations of Nan Madol often dismissed indigenous knowledge, attributing its construction to mythical outsiders or lost civilizations. Such narratives undermined local agency and reinforced colonial attitudes. Modern scholarship increasingly recognizes the sophistication of Pohnpeian society and the validity of oral traditions. Ethical preservation involves correcting these narratives and restoring intellectual respect. Nan Madol further challenges the idea that heritage must be static. Living cultures evolve, reinterpret, and recontextualize their past. Preservation should not freeze Nan Madol into a single historical moment, but allow its meaning to adapt. This dynamic approach acknowledges that heritage lives through use, story, and reinterpretation, not just through physical survival. Education plays a crucial role in ethical preservation. When people understand the cultural, ecological, and philosophical significance of Nan Madol, they are more likely to respect and protect it. Education transforms visitors from consumers into caretakers. The city thus becomes a classroom, teaching lessons about responsibility, humility, and interconnectedness. Nan Madol also prompts reflection on global inequality in heritage protection. Many iconic sites in wealthy regions receive extensive funding and technological support, while sites like Nan Madol face limited resources despite equal significance. Ethical stewardship demands more equitable distribution of global attention and support. Cultural value should not be measured by economic power or geographic centrality. The role of technology in preservation introduces further ethical considerations. Drones, 3D scanning, and virtual reality allow unprecedented access and documentation. However, technology must be used thoughtfully. Without cultural consultation, digital representation can become another form of extraction, taking images, data, and narratives without giving back. Nan Madol reminds us that innovation must be guided by respect. Community involvement stands at the heart of ethical preservation. Local voices carry knowledge that cannot be replicated by external experts. When communities are empowered as stewards, preservation becomes sustainable and meaningful. Nan Madol demonstrates that heritage survives best when those who live closest to it are central to its care. The city also raises questions about future generations. Preservation is not only about honoring the past, but about responsibility to those yet unborn. What version of Nan Madol will they inherit? A neglected ruin, a commercialized attraction, or a respected symbol of human ingenuity and balance? Ethical stewardship requires long-term thinking, echoing the generational vision that originally built the city. In facing the challenges of preservation, Nan Madol becomes a moral teacher. It shows that ethical decisions are rarely simple, that respect must guide action, and humility is essential when dealing with deep time and cultural meaning. The city's endurance is not a demand for control, but an invitation to thoughtful stewardship. As global interest in cultural heritage grows, Nan Madol stands as a reminder that the past is not a resource to be consumed, but a responsibility to be honored. Its stones, waters, and stories call for patience, dialogue, and care. Preservation, in this sense, becomes an act of listening to history, to community, and to the natural world. In conclusion, Nan Madol teaches that safeguarding heritage is a deeply ethical endeavor. It requires balancing science with spirituality, access with respect, and intervention with restraint. The city's future depends not only on technology or funding, but on values, on humanity's willingness to act as thoughtful guardians of memory. If Nan Madol endures in meaning, even as its stones change, then preservation has succeeded. Its greatest protection lies not in walls or barriers, but in understanding. By approaching Nan Madol with humility, respect,
and shared responsibility, humanity ensures that this stone city of the Pacific continues to teach, inspire, and guide long into the future.
Nan Madol has survived not because it was frozen in time, but because it was remembered. Part 16 turns attention to the responsibility humanity carries towards such places, how preservation, ethics, and stewardship shape the future of cultural heritage. Nan Madol challenges modern society to reconsider what it means to protect the past while respecting the present and preparing for the future. Preservation is often imagined as a technical task, stabilizing walls, documenting structures, and preventing decay. Yet Nan Madol reveals that preservation is far more complex. The city exists within a living cultural landscape shaped by tides, vegetation, and the beliefs of local communities. Any attempt to preserve it must therefore balance scientific intervention with cultural sensitivity. Preservation, in this context, is not about control, but about care. One of the central ethical questions surrounding Nan Madol is ownership. Who owns the past? Is it the local community whose ancestors built and revered the site? Is it the nation-state responsible for governance? Or is it humanity as a whole, drawn to the site for its universal significance? Nan Madol illustrates that heritage cannot be reduced to legal boundaries alone. True stewardship requires dialogue, respect, and shared responsibility. For the people of Pohnpei, Nan Madol is not merely an archaeological site, it is a sacred space woven into cultural identity and oral tradition. Certain areas are approached with reverence, and stories associated with the city continue to inform moral and social values. Ethical preservation must honor this living relationship. When heritage is treated only as an object of study or tourism, it risks losing its deeper meaning. Tourism presents both opportunity and challenge. Increased global interest in Nan Madol brings awareness, funding, and educational value. At the same time, uncontrolled visitation threatens physical damage, environmental stress, and cultural disruption. The ethical question becomes how to share heritage without exploiting it. Nan Madol encourages models of sustainable tourism that prioritize education, respect, and community involvement over profit and spectacle. Environmental change further complicates preservation. Rising sea levels, stronger storms, and shifting ecosystems pose serious threats to Nan Madol's physical structures. Unlike inland monuments, the city was always vulnerable to water. Its builders understood this impermanence, designing the city to coexist with tides rather than resist them. Modern preservation efforts must therefore confront a difficult truth. Not all loss can be prevented. This reality raises a profound ethical dilemma. Should humanity attempt to preserve Nan Madol exactly as it is, or accept transformation as part of its life cycle? Some argue that intervention is necessary to protect irreplaceable heritage. Others suggest that allowing natural processes to continue respects the city's original relationship with the environment. Nan Madol does not offer a simple answer, but it encourages humility in decision-making. Documentation becomes an essential form of preservation. Archaeological surveys, digital mapping, oral history recordings, and virtual reconstructions ensure that knowledge of Nan Madol survives even if physical structures deteriorate. In this sense, preservation shifts from maintaining matter to maintaining memory. The city teaches that safeguarding meaning can be as important as safeguarding stone. Ethical stewardship also requires confronting historical injustice. Early interpretations of Nan Madol often dismissed indigenous knowledge, attributing its construction to mythical outsiders or lost civilizations. Such narratives undermined local agency and reinforced colonial attitudes. Modern scholarship increasingly recognizes the sophistication of Pohnpeian society and the validity of oral traditions. Ethical preservation involves correcting these narratives and restoring intellectual respect. Nan Madol further challenges the idea that heritage must be static. Living cultures evolve, reinterpret, and recontextualize their past. Preservation should not freeze Nan Madol into a single historical moment, but allow its meaning to adapt. This dynamic approach acknowledges that heritage lives through use, story, and reinterpretation, not just through physical survival. Education plays a crucial role in ethical preservation. When people understand the cultural, ecological, and philosophical significance of Nan Madol, they are more likely to respect and protect it. Education transforms visitors from consumers into caretakers. The city thus becomes a classroom, teaching lessons about responsibility, humility, and interconnectedness. Nan Madol also prompts reflection on global inequality in heritage protection. Many iconic sites in wealthy regions receive extensive funding and technological support, where sites like Nan Madol face limited resources despite equal significance. Ethical stewardship demands more equitable distribution of global attention and support. Cultural value should not be measured by economic power or geographic centrality. The role of technology in preservation introduces further ethical considerations. Drones, 3D scanning, and virtual reality allow unprecedented access and documentation. However, technology must be used thoughtfully. Without cultural consultation, digital representation can become another form of extraction, taking images, data, and narratives without giving back. Nan Madol reminds us that innovation must be guided by respect. Community involvement stands at the heart of ethical preservation. When communities are empowered as stewards, preservation becomes sustainable and meaningful. Nan Madol demonstrates that heritage survives best when those who live closest to it are central to its care. The city also raises questions about future generations. Preservation is not only about honoring the past, but about responsibility to those yet unborn. What version of Nan Madol will they inherit? A neglected ruin, a commercialized attraction, or a respected symbol of human ingenuity and balance? Ethical stewardship requires long-term thinking, echoing the generational vision that originally built the city. In facing the challenges of preservation, Nan Madol becomes a moral teacher. It shows that ethical decisions are rarely simple, that respect must guide action, and humility is essential when dealing with deep time and cultural meaning. The city's endurance is not a demand for control, but an invitation to thoughtful stewardship. As global interest in cultural heritage grows, Nan Madol stands as a reminder that the past is not a resource to be consumed, but a responsibility to be honored. Its stones, waters, and stories call for patience, dialogue, and care. Preservation, in this sense, becomes an act of listening to history, to community, and to the natural world. In conclusion, Nan Madol teaches that safeguarding heritage is a deeply ethical endeavor. It requires balancing science with spirituality, access with respect, and intervention with restraint. The city's future depends not only on technology or funding, but on values, on humanity's willingness to act as thoughtful guardians of memory. If Nan Madol endures in meaning, even as its stones change, then preservation has succeeded. Its greatest protection lies not in walls or barriers, but in understanding. By approaching Nan Madol with humility, respect, and shared responsibility, humanity ensures that this stone city of the Pacific continues to teach, inspire, and guide long into the future.
Nan Madol did not end when its rulers fell, nor did it vanish when its temples emptied. Like all great human creations, it entered an afterlife, a long, unfolding existence beyond its original purpose. In this afterlife, Nan Madol ceased to be a capital and became a memory, a symbol, a question carried forward through centuries. Part 18 explores this extended life of the city, examining how ruins continue to act upon the world long after their builders are gone.
After the decline of the Saudeleur dynasty, Nan Madol did not collapse into silence overnight. The city slowly transformed. Political authority shifted inland, ceremonial practices adapted, and the stone city gradually lost its central role. Yet it was never abandoned in spirit. People continued to visit, remember, and speak of it with reverence. Nan Madol became a place of ancestral presence rather than royal command. This transition from living city to sacred ruin marks the beginning of its afterlife. In many cultures, ruins are not failures but thresholds, spaces where the human and the ancestral meet. Nan Madol entered such a threshold state, existing between use and memory, between history and myth. Its stones no longer governed daily life, but they governed meaning. Oral traditions played a crucial role in sustaining this afterlife. Stories of powerful rulers, strict laws, and supernatural events preserved the city's significance even as its physical structures weathered. These narratives were not merely historical accounts, they were moral frameworks. Nan Madol became a lesson encoded in story, warning against tyranny and imbalance while honoring ingenuity and devotion. When European explorers and missionaries arrived centuries later, they encountered a city already layered with meaning. To outsiders, Nan Madol appeared mysterious and inexplicable, a city of stone rising from the sea without obvious precedent. Early interpretations often misunderstood or exoticized it, projecting foreign myths onto an indigenous achievement. This marked a new phase in the city's afterlife, reinterpretation through external eyes. Colonial encounters altered how Nan Madol was discussed, documented, and valued. Western scholars attempted to fit it into familiar categories, sometimes denying local authorship or attributing its construction to lost civilizations. These narratives reflected broader colonial attitudes in which indigenous knowledge was dismissed or marginalized. Nan Madol's afterlife thus became entangled with global power dynamics. Over time, however, scholarship evolved. Archaeologists, historians, and anthropologists began to recognize the sophistication of Pohnpeian society and the validity of oral tradition. This shift represented a partial restoration of voice. Nan Madol's afterlife moved closer to balance as academic study increasingly acknowledged indigenous agency rather than erasing it. In the modern era, Nan Madol occupies multiple identities simultaneously. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a national symbol, a sacred ancestral place, and a subject of global fascination. These identities sometimes coexist peacefully and sometimes clash. The city's afterlife is therefore not singular but plural, shaped by competing values and interpretations. Global recognition brought protection but also pressure. Increased attention raised concerns about tourism, conservation, and representation. Nan Madol's stones, once shaped by communal labor, now face the weight of global expectation. Its afterlife includes debates about access, authenticity, and responsibility, questions that mirror broader challenges in heritage preservation worldwide. Nan Madol's continued existence also reshapes how ruins are understood. Unlike monuments built to immortalize rulers, Nan Madol was not designed for eternity. Its builders accepted impermanence, constructing a city that flowed with water and time. In its afterlife, this philosophy becomes clearer. The city teaches that endurance does not require resistance to change. Environmental forces now play a dominant role in this extended life. Rising sea levels, erosion, and vegetation growth threaten the site's physical integrity. Yet these forces are not intruders. They are continuations of the same natural rhythms that shaped the city's birth. Nan Madol's afterlife is therefore ecological as well as cultural. This ecological dimension deepens the city's relevance. As modern societies confront climate change, Nan Madol stands as both warning and wisdom.
It shows the vulnerability of coastal civilizations, but also demonstrates a model of coexistence rather than domination. Its afterlife becomes a dialogue with the future. Nan Madol also lives on through imagination. Writers, filmmakers, artists, and thinkers draw inspiration from its mystery. Each creative reinterpretation adds another layer to its afterlife, extending its influence beyond geography. The city becomes a symbol of lost knowledge, alternative modernity, and human adaptability. Yet imagination carries responsibility. Romanticizing Nan Madol without understanding its cultural roots risks turning it into a fantasy detached from reality. Ethical engagement requires grounding creativity in respect. The city's afterlife depends on how stories are told, whether they honor truth or distort it. Education ensures that Nan Madol's afterlife remains meaningful rather than superficial. When taught as a complex human achievement rather than a curiosity, it challenges stereotypes about technological progress and cultural hierarchy. The city becomes evidence that innovation arises wherever humans engage deeply with their environment. Nan Madol also influences how time itself is perceived. Modern culture often prioritizes speed, novelty, and constant growth. Nan Madol's slow decay and persistent presence offer an alternative rhythm. Its afterlife unfolds over centuries, reminding humanity that significance is not measured in immediacy. In this way, Nan Madol becomes a counter-narrative to modern excess. It suggests that restraint, balance, and continuity can produce legacies as powerful as expansion and accumulation. The city's afterlife quietly critiques the assumptions of endless development. For the people of Pohnpei, Nan Madol's afterlife is personal. It remains a place of identity, memory, and spiritual presence. This living connection ensures that the city is not reduced to stone alone. Its afterlife is carried in language, ritual, and respect, passed from generation to generation. The city's endurance also raises philosophical questions about meaning after use. When a structure no longer serves its original function, does it lose value or gain it? Nan Madol suggests the latter. Freed from political power, it becomes a space for reflection rather than control. Nan Madol's afterlife thus transforms it from a center of authority into a center of contemplation. Visitors encounter not commands, but questions. What does it mean to build wisely, to rule justly, to live within limits? The city does not answer, but it insists these questions be asked. As centuries pass, Nan Madol continues to accumulate time rather than lose it. Each era adds interpretation, concern, and care. Its afterlife is not decay alone, but accumulation of meaning. Even loss becomes part of its story, teaching acceptance rather than despair. The stones, worn and quiet, now serve as witnesses rather than instruments. They witness the rise and fall of empires beyond the Pacific, the transformation of the world, and humanity's ongoing struggle to balance ambition with responsibility. In this witnessing role, Nan Madol achieves a form of immortality. Ultimately, Nan Madol's afterlife reveals a profound truth. Cities do not die when they fall silent. They continue to shape thought, identity, and ethics long after their streets empty. Their greatest influence may come not during their height, but during their remembrance. Nan Madol stands today not as a relic of failure, but a success of meaning. It succeeded in embedding itself into the long consciousness of humanity. Its afterlife proves that what humans build can outlast function and power if it is rooted in understanding and balance. In the end, Nan Madol's afterlife is a gift. It offers humanity a second chance to learn without repeating, to admire without conquering, and to remember without owning. The city remains, not demanding attention, but deserving it. As waves continue their timeless rhythm through its canals, Nan Madol lives on, not as a capital, not as a mystery alone, but as a quiet companion to human history, reminding us that even when cities fall, meaning can rise.
Nan Madol stands at the edge of the Pacific not only as a remnant of the past, but as a message addressed to the future. Its stones, shaped by human hands and ocean tides, carry lessons that extend far beyond their original time. Part 19 explores this enduring legacy, what Nan Madol offers to generations yet unborn, and how its meaning continues to unfold. The future often looks forward, driven by innovation and speed. Nan Madol asks the opposite, to pause, to reflect, and to look back with humility. Its legacy begins with the reminder that advanced knowledge does not always appear in familiar forms. Human intelligence has many expressions, shaped by environment, belief, and necessity. Nan Madol proves that ingenuity thrives even without modern tools. One of the most powerful legacies of Nan Madol is its redefinition of progress. Modern societies often equate progress with expansion, dominance, and technological accumulation. Nan Madol presents an alternative vision, one where progress means balance, sustainability, and coherence with nature. Its builders did not conquer the sea, they collaborated with it. This collaboration offers crucial insight for a future shaped by climate uncertainty. Coastal cities around the world now face rising waters and environmental instability. Nan Madol becomes both a warning and a guide. It shows the vulnerability of human settlements, but also demonstrates how design rooted in environmental understanding can endure longer than expected. Nan Madol's legacy also lies in its social vision. The city was not the result of individual ambition, but of collective effort. Its construction required coordination, shared belief, and long-term commitment. In an era increasingly focused on individual achievement, Nan Madol reminds the future that lasting legacies are built together. The city also leaves a lesson about power. The Saudalar rulers centralized authority within Nan Madol, using ritual and architecture to reinforce control. Their eventual fall illustrates the limits of power divorced from justice and adaptability. For future societies, this serves as a cautionary tale. Authority that ignores balance ultimately erodes itself. Yet Nan Madol does not leave only warnings, it also leaves hope. The survival of the city's memory, despite political collapse and environmental pressure, shows that meaning can outlast power. Culture, story, and identity persist even when institutions fail. This resilience offers reassurance to future generations navigating uncertainty. Education is another key aspect of Nan Madol's legacy. As a subject of study, it challenges simplified narratives of world history. It expands the map of human achievement beyond familiar centers, affirming that greatness has always been global. For future learners, Nan Madol fosters respect for cultural diversity and indigenous knowledge. Nan Madol also influences how the future might approach heritage. Instead of treating ancient sites as static monuments, it encourages dynamic stewardship. Preservation becomes an ongoing relationship rather than a final solution. This approach aligns with a future that values adaptability over rigidity. Technology will shape how Nan Madol's legacy is carried forward. Digital documentation, virtual reconstructions, and global communication allow the city to be experienced far beyond its physical location. Yet the future must use these tools responsibly. Nan Madol teaches that access should deepen understanding, not replace presence or respect. The city's legacy also extends into ethics. How humanity chooses to protect, represent, and interpret Nan Madol reflects broader moral priorities. Will heritage be commodified or cared for? Will local voices lead or be overshadowed? The answers will shape not only Nan Madol's future, but the future of cultural stewardship worldwide.
Nan Madol further contributes to the future by expanding how time is understood. Modern life often compresses time into short cycles of productivity and consumption. Nan Madol stretches time outward, reminding humanity that some achievements unfold over generations. Its legacy encourages patience and long-term thinking. For future creators, architects, planners, and artists, Nan Madol offers inspiration without prescription. It does not provide a blueprint, but a philosophy. Build with awareness of place, respect limits, accept impermanence. These principles may guide future innovation more wisely than any single technique. Nan Madol also leaves a spiritual legacy. Even for those outside its cultural context, the city evokes reverence. Its quiet presence fosters reflection on humanity's relationship with the unseen, whether understood as ancestors, nature, or deep time. This spiritual dimension may become increasingly valuable in a future dominated by technology. The city's continued vulnerability is itself part of its legacy. Nan Madol may not survive unchanged. Some stones may fall, canals may fill, and structures may erode. This impermanence does not diminish its value, it deepens it. The future inherits not a perfect monument, but a living reminder of transience. Nan Madol's legacy also lies in its unanswered questions. How exactly were the stones moved? How were rituals performed? What did daily life truly feel like? These mysteries invite future inquiry. The city ensures that curiosity, not certainty, remains central to human engagement with the past. In a globalized future, Nan Madol stands as a counterbalance to cultural homogenization. It represents a distinct worldview shaped by island life, ocean rhythms, and ancestral continuity. Preserving this distinctiveness enriches humanity as a whole, reminding the future that diversity is strength. Nan Madol also leaves behind a lesson in humility for science and scholarship. Despite advanced methods, complete understanding remains elusive. This limitation encourages respect for alternative ways of knowing, including oral tradition and cultural memory. The future of knowledge may depend on integrating these perspectives rather than ranking them. As generations pass, Nan Madol's legacy will continue to evolve. New challenges will arise, new interpretations will form, and new values will shape how it is understood. This evolution is not a threat, it is the city's greatest gift. A legacy that adapts remains alive. Nan Madol ultimately leaves the future a choice. It can be treated as a curiosity, reduced to images and facts, or it can be engaged as a teacher. The path chosen will reflect humanity's maturity in dealing with its own history. The city's stones do not demand preservation for their own sake. They ask for understanding. They ask the future to listen to the environment, to ancestors, and to the quiet wisdom embedded in place. This listening may guide more thoughtful decisions in an increasingly complex world. Nan Madol's legacy without end, therefore, is not material, but moral. It resides in the questions it raises, the values it embodies, and the humility it inspires. It leaves the future not instructions, but insight. As the Pacific continues its endless motion around the city, Nan Madol remains steady in its message. Civilizations rise and fall, technologies change, and landscapes transform, but meaning endures when humans build with respect for time, nature, and one another. In the end, Nan Madol does not belong to history alone. It belongs to the future that chooses to learn from it. Its legacy is not sealed in stone, but carried forward in thought, care, and responsibility. As long as humanity remembers this, Nan Madol's story will never truly end.